who I have met.
It's been a while. It's been
Really? Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. I would like to ask that you will close the doors, please. And if any persons are coming in, we will ask that you tell them to come in very quietly so they will not disturb the meeting tonight. As the pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church, I would like to thank all of you for coming, and I welcome you here in our sanctuary. As I said in the first meeting that we had with city officials, our church serves a purpose in this community. For the last 3 years, we've been in this edifice. We came from the Summer Hill location when we outgrew that facility. And once we came here, and I've been the pastor here for 47 years. When we came to this neighborhood, it was a thriving community. That is the reason why we picked this property. And we were hoping that we would be a blessing to the community. We have 7,000 members have been active in our church down through the years. We have been on BEP for many years. We're now #1 on the Impact Network with our television ministry. We've been on the B, Channel 57 at this present time, both. We have a huge audience with our live streaming. So we have been in social media for a long time. I have been privileged to serve in some very outstanding, I say, positions with Baptists. I was the director of media for the National Baptist Convention under Dr. Henry G. Lyons. I represented 27 million Baptists around the world. I was also a part of the National Council of Churches Committee, appointed by the convention to represent Baptists worldwide. I've been around the block a little bit. My purpose for getting involved with the community is that many years ago, we had discussed on our board of leaving Campbellton Road. Things have changed. We do not see the productivity that we once saw, and the businesses and people coming. We lost a lot of members as a result of the change in the community. Yeah, some of our members are faithful. They will move out. They say they move because of time, but they come back to the church. I was criticized when I first came here as a young pastor that she bought me a nice car, and I was going down the street enjoying the car as always. They was trying to show me their gratitude for building this church from the ground. And when we built the second wing on the back, I was not involved in a community. I didn't like it. I felt my position is to be a pastor and a pastor only. But when somebody made a bad mistake or statement, all these preachers do is ride up and down the street, and I cause I don't want nothing but money and care nothing about us. I went to my office and I dropped down in tears because that's not me. And I said, I don't want to get involved. But you know, some things you get pulled in, like this war we're in today. America doesn't want to fight Russia, but we're being pulled in. And I got pulled in because the people said, you are our voice. We have the largest crowd over here on Campbellton Road. Why are you not concerned about the community? And why you want to leave us? Why are you turning your back on us when we need you? I went to several pastors in this community and asked them to join with me. And all of them flat out refused, saying, we don't want to get involved in politics. We don't have anything to do with the city. That's not our calling. So I decided to walk alone. I started the Greenbrier Merchant Association of Businesses in the community. And I took it upon myself to make a bold challenge move to clean up Campbellton Road. It had become so dirty. Every mayor has been in my office and invited me to their chamber and expressed to me some things I did not say and made promises. The last meeting I had with Cassine Reed came to my office. Mr. Bill Campbell, I was part of his team. I was a chaplain for the mayor. I met with Shirley Franklin, Mr. Lisa Borders, who was president of the city council, and Mr. John Lewis, and Mr. David Scott, and Mr. Jesse Hill. Come up with some plans for the development of Campbellton Road. And the documentation of them got the videos to prove it. And I have met with David Scott. for the feasibility study and overlay district, but I have confronted every city council person that have come in these positions. I've been working hard, so I started cleaning up Campbellton Road. I've had homeless people for the last 30 years pick up trash on Campbellton Road. It became so filthy, nobody would do anything. I asked other churches to help, they refused. And I have helped many homeless by giving them $50 a week, 5 of them. And I was able to get them in a place to stay down the street if they all just team in and pull their money in together. And now as a result of that, many of them have gotten their family started, gotten back on their feet. And this very day, the NPU gave an award for what I do over here, cleaning up the street. We pick up trash from First Bank, Greenbrier Mall, all the way up to the Mall Station. My concern was to keep the streets clean so that people won't mind coming to Campbellton Road. And we do that today. Every day, I pay people to pick up the trash because I knew that you could never get anybody who wanted to develop in this area with dirty streets. Unfortunately, we're battling that today. My purpose for getting involved with Mark. When the mayor called me and said, we're working on some plans for Campbellton Road, I made calls to Ms. Stacey Abrams, which I when she ran for governor. I paid for the luncheon, $5,000 out of my pocket, where all the pastors met there with her. We have had the vice president in this pulpit, Mr. Gore. I was the first African-American and forced Mr. Clinton for presidency. When he won, he invited me, Joe Laurie, and Dr. Roberts to the White House, part of the president's health plan. And one of the things Mr. Gore said when the president was in office, we're going to help you. $100 million came to this earth empowerment money. I was there to give the invitation at the City Hall. We have not seen one dime of that money for Campbellton Road, for empowerment money. My purpose is that I am not a politician. The mayor called me and told me he will not be here tonight. Our council person, Ms. Overstreet, expressed to me they cannot be here. Let me tell you something. You're in my church now, so that's what I want to say. I met Martha. What embarrassed me more than anything was to hear the negative things about people until you hear them out. And when we had that last meeting, which was the largest gathering, I'm told, ever in the history of Atlanta, that many city officials and people came together, nearly filled up this floor. And it shocked people around the nation. It went viral about that meeting. And we also learned that a lot of people were upset that night. A lot of them came to me, where is Martha? This is about Martha and the money we pay taxes for. I reached out to Martha. And Martha said, we never refused to meet with you. We just know who's the person to gather us together. And when I went down to Martha to see Martha, it was embarrassing. He dropped this sort on Facebook. The word got out. Martha didn't want to talk. And when I left mad. And so several other people were with me. And I didn't want to have anything else to say. The mayor said, don't give up. So I finally got this call from one of the nicest gentlemen I've ever met. Welcome you. And got this call, Martha would like to meet you first. And then to meet with the people to let them know that meeting when I went down there was a board meeting. It was not a meeting that they had promised to come meet with us. And after I left the meeting angry, Martha came down to meet with me and the others who were there. So I want you to notice that when you saw that on Facebook and people out there said that was misunderstanding, I had not spoken with Martha. I was invited to come down there. There was a flyer floating out, and the young lady said she got that Martha was supposed to be meeting us. We apologized. I did not do that. So before they come, a couple of things that I want to do, we were not able to reach. The person say they know about the meeting. One or two of them said they're going to try to make it here tonight. But what I want to make sure that next time we have a meeting of this sort, that we have your phone number and your email so that you'll be in our system. And in that way, I did call and poll today and put out the word for a lot of seniors, but a lot of them are afraid to come out at night. And I'll let Martha talk in a minute, but I want to pass these out. This young lady, our program coordinator here at the church, Ms. Gatson, who represents all EPU meetings. She's going to pass that little part out. Take that, please. Give us your phone number, name, and email so that the next time people want to call and say, we want to meet again with you all, I'll have some information on it. Give that to me, and I will not give that to anyone. That's why we're putting those out. Once you give us your name and your phone number, we'll come back and pick that up because I need contact. And Martha wants to talk. We may have to come again, and I'll be able to reach you through email. So please do that as you receive those calls. Now, we don't have all night. We have things to talk about. I'm going to ask at this time we will stand for a word of prayer. And by the way, we are on live, Facebook, and YouTube. We're live streaming as I speak. And Martha is also doing that. Let's pray. Father God, we give thanks to you for this evening, and we thank you for guiding us here at your house of prayer. Oh, we come on an occasion that is not just church service, but we are involved. We are a church in the community. The community makes up the church. The community is involved, whether we like it or not. The church is involved because we represent the people in the community. In the Afro-American community, we have always been involved on civil rights up and now. And we're praying tonight to guide us as a body of Christ, as believers, and those that are believers of whatever religion they may be, that we have come together to be on one common cause, that whatever our differences might be, that we can come together and meet and come on one accord because it involves us all. Afro-Americans are the largest people derived model system, and we are aware of that. We represent those persons who could not be here tonight. We pray for our seniors who could not make it because at this very moment, they're afraid to come out at night. And we're hoping that this meeting, great things will come out of this meeting, that we have a better understanding for those seniors, for this community, to help the police who are struggling out there, to help deal with crime in the neighborhood and drugs, that we will all come together and see it's not just Campbellton Road, it's happening in Buckhead, it's happening everywhere. And we need your guidance, and we need your insight as you guide us tonight, that we do everything in decency and in order. We forever give you the praises and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. You may take your seat. As a pastor, as I said right now, my job is not to get political. I'm just a leader. So I'm going to bring on persons that bring on persons. So if I'm right, I will let this young, I'm going to introduce one of the most fine, sweetest little precious thing I've ever made. When she came to my office and they sat there in my office, I thought, well, to my fine gentleman, this young lady, and there was another gentleman, I felt so at ease. The smile and the loveliness and the kindness, the way they came to my office. I sat there and was amazed. This is Martha. This is not the people. This is not the image. I kind-hearted people say, we want to hear from you. We want to hear. So for that reason, I'm going to call on this wonderful woman of God and a very spiritual woman. And she's coming as a board chair. So I want you to hear Ms. Rita Scott as she comes and make her presentation to you tonight. Give her a hand as she comes. Hold on, you got the mic. Oh, this one is fine. Thank you.
Come ye. I don't know what to do. I'm at home here, and so as he said many times when I stand, I have to see what hat I'm wearing at the time, and so I'm known for going off script. So as the pastor was speaking, the one thing for sure I want to say is that I'm excited we're here on behalf of MARTA to serve and to serve you, the people. And as he was speaking, I thought about the scripture that says, without a vision, the man perished. So I don't know whether to take my scripture, but you know, I'm at home being in the house of God. And I'm excited that we're here because we're here to hear from you, the people that are in the community. We want to know how we can serve you and also answer any questions you may have. Before I call our, I'm sorry, not, I'm going to stay on tab. Okay. Before I call Mr. Spencer, who's going to introduce the MARTA interim CEO, I want to introduce to you several of our board members that are in the building. First of all, Ms. Freya Hardage, who is the previous chair, Ms. Hardage. She represents Fulton County on the MARTA Board of Directors. Ms. Stacy Blakely, who also represents Fulton County on the MARTA Board of Directors. Mr. Rod Mullis, who represents Atlanta on the MARTA Board of Directors. And Mr. Rod Fryson, who represents DeKalb County on the MARTA Board of Directors. So it was very telling that members of the board do not represent or they're not appointed for the Atlanta area, but they're interested in what's happening. And they want to hear from the people that they took time out this evening to come and make sure that they hear from you and that they, when we get back to our actual board, we've heard from the people and we can bring into subjection the things that we know you expect from us. So with that being said, thank you for having us. We're here to hear from you. You're right, Pastor. In no way would we have not allowed you in the MARTA building. That was a misunderstanding. Again, as I said that day, the misunderstanding. We absolutely want to hear from the community, our constituents, our patrons, and those that we serve. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Todd Spencer. Is that correct? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Thank you for Thank you. I'll move this a little closer.
Please.
Thank you for those opening remarks, and also thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present tonight at your church. So thank you. Hello, everyone. What are you doing? Good, good. I'm Colin Spencer with HNTV. Thank you. I want to thank everybody who is joining us online as well. We're going to get started in a moment, but what I wanted to do first is go over some housekeeping items. This gathering tonight isn't an announcement. It's more of an information session. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to share some information about the Campbellton Court transit history. We're going to talk about the MARTA project, and we're also going to talk about where we are now. We have a nice agenda lined up for you tonight. The presentation here at the church is now via Zoom. It's all being live streamed on MARTA's YouTube page. And after the presentation, the information section will be uploaded to MARTA's website. So the presentation here tonight, what we want to do is we want to hear from you. So what we've got set up and what we're going to do is we're going to have an open house session. here in the church. This will give everybody here an opportunity to give feedback, also to ask MARTA staff and to ask the project team questions. So we'll do that here. So for all of you online, the live stream session will end after the presentation, but the conversation is still going to continue. What we're going to do is we're going to have a moderated discussion online. So for all of you online, that's another opportunity for you guys to provide feedback and to ask the MARTA staff and the project team questions. And for all of you listening in on your telephones, you too have an opportunity to provide feedback and to ask some questions. So we want you to stick around after the presentation because the discussion will continue. So with that being said, I hope I gave you a little outline on what to expect tonight. So is everybody ready to get started? Oh, yeah. All right, so let's do it. So I'm extremely pleasure to introduce our first speaker and next interim general manager and CEO of MARTA, Collie Greenwood.
Thank you, Collins, and good evening, everyone. My name is Collie Greenwood, interim general manager, CEO. I'm very, very pleased and honored to be here tonight. I want to thank Pastor Fleming for the kind words that he said earlier. I just wanted to reiterate the fact that MARTA is all about engagement, and be it the session that was held here last time and the amount of notice MARTA received and our ability to attend. I just want to stand here personally and make sure everyone understands that there was never any intent to avoid. We simply couldn't get here, given the amount of notice that we had and whatnot. We made a commitment at that point that we were going to come back, listen, speak to Reverend Fleming first, and also give him the opportunity to develop materials, bring some facts and share them here with you, because I've often said, especially in light of the Campbellton corridor conversation, I said, if everybody knew everything, then the solution would be self-evident. And so that's our intent tonight, to ensure that you, the people, are hearing directly from us the facts as we know them, and not relying on anyone else to convey those facts to you. We believe that as long as the facts are clear in front of you, you will make up your own mind, decide what your position is on the matter. I want to just, if we can go to the next slide or to the slide, I want to just address the fact that there have been a lot of perceptions and concerns, and we've done a lot of listening, not just in the corridor tour that we Saturday past, driving along the Campbellton corridor and listening to those on board with us and stopping and talking about some of the points where we could improve the community, but all the comments that we've heard, even at the last session that was held in this church, and the comments we received at our board meetings. And so if I can direct your attention to the screen, we heard a number of things. And the point I'm going to make here is we're going to address each of these tonight. And so I hope that you see in the boards reflected the comments, concerns that you have had or that you heard. And we're just going to matter of fact, very plainly bring the facts so that we're sure we're leaving the facts at your feet. So things like, when did the mode switch from LRT to BRT? We're going to, you will hear tonight that there's never a switch from LRT to BRT. It's always been an iterative conversation, meaning it's an ever-changing conversation based on the facts that are presented during our research. How was the decision made? When did it happen? You'll hear that the decision is not yet made, and that it is a conversation that brings all the facts to light and answers the questions that the people have as we make our way to, we've made a recommendation. The decision makers, the board members, are still waiting to make sure that they have all the facts. And case in point, Chair Scott has said to you, many of our board members are here tonight. They're going to be back unfiltered. We voted for LRT, not BRT. Vote in general about LRT was the MARTA 2040 program, and you'll hear certainly in the back when we have we have tables set up in the back of the breakout session. You're all invited to go back to each of those stations and speak to the subject matter experts at the time. Inequity in investment, different parts of the city. You will hear tonight that that is not the case, that the process for determining what mode is traveling in the alignments of all over the city, every one of those jurisdictions are subject to the same consideration, and you will find other areas of the city are also being considered for BRT. Lack of engagement, you'll hear later today about all the efforts and the engagement sessions that we've had, and the fact that we're not finished and we're open to continued engagement. Concern that BRT will not generate the same economic return. You'll hear tonight about a $200 million investment on the information that a BRT is coming to Summerhill. Concern that any project will bring displacement and gentrification. On this fact, I concur that there is a concern. MARTA's aware of it, and for that reason, we're very careful. We have our senior director of transit-oriented development and real estate here, Mr. Jacob Vallow. Three of us, Chair Scott, myself, and Jacob Vallow, met 2 or 3 weeks ago with Pastor Fleming and made clear that our idea of transit-oriented development is called ETOD. It's equitable transit-oriented development. It's not about gentrification and just making places so expensive that others can't afford to live there. We're making plans to make sure that those that have lived here and that contributed here get to stay here and participate in the economy and benefit from it. Impact on property owners and businesses. There are some, but that is an ongoing conversation that we will have with property owners and businesses. You will hear that a center running BRT has less impact than not. And poor state of infrastructure along the corridor, that was loud and clear. And again, tonight you will hear that MARTA's got plans under this proposal to address many of those infrastructure concerns. We've heard the concerns of crime. We've heard about the lack of sidewalks and safe streets to the service, and this proposal addresses that. So, I'll stand here and say all these things, and then my team is going to back it up. And when that's over, if you haven't decided yet, then that's fair game. But we will have kind of cleared our consciences, making sure that we gave you the information that we've invited you to engage with us further on any of these matters. I remember when I was in the 8th grade, okay, this is gonna take long, I promise you, but I was in the 8th grade, and my teacher in the 8th grade said, Collie, you shouldn't go to the high school that's nearby, you should go to this high school for a number of reasons. It's got a good program and it'll prepare you for college. And all my friends were going to nearby high school, so I had trouble with that. And the teacher said, I'm going to talk to your parents. So I lost control of that process, spoke to my parents and gave them all the reasons why I should go to a different high school. And my parents said, that's 5 miles away and we work. My parents both work 2 jobs. So we don't know how that's going to happen. And the teacher got involved and said, here you go, Collie, here's the bus schedule, and here's how you're going to get to this school. And I was kind of hoping to go to school with my friends, but the bus made it possible for me to go to another school. And I can stand here today and honestly say that had I not gone to the school that my grade 8 teacher told me to go to, I think my life would have turned out very, very differently. And I said, because I remember when we went to DC a couple of weeks ago, and Congress Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock were both very, very supportive of MARTA and the investments that we plan to make in the community and the service that we plan to put on. And one of the things that Senator Warnock said was, transit is important because it gets people to where they're going so that they can get to where they're going. So it was a geographic reference in terms of what transit can do, point A, point B, but it was a socioeconomic reference that says if you can go to the school that you should go to the job that you want to go to the entertainment places that you value, go to the places of worship that you want to get to. If we can enable that, then you can get to where you want to go in the socioeconomic sense. And so that's what we're here about. That's what we're all about. I often say that, it's not MARTA that builds Atlanta. It's not MARTA that builds the economic development of the region. It's you, people. We just make it possible by giving you a vessel to get from point A to point B. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to get you there sooner, faster, more quickly, more reliably, and you'll hear all about that in the plans as they unfold. And while we're at it, we're planning to invest in the community in the areas we've heard you talk about that are lacking. So, I'll close with this. We're not just passing through. We're not just setting up an alignment that gets people through the Campbellton corridor. We're here to invest in the neighborhood so that the people that are in Campbellton corridor can enjoy Campbellton corridor and be proud to be residents for generations to come. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Colleen.
So what we're going to do next is we're going to share a presentation to you guys, and I want to bring up here to the podium next with our presenters, Marcus Arnold and Tim.
Great. Thank you, Collins. Good evening, everyone. I'm Marcus Arnold. I'm the project manager for the Campbellton Road project for MARTA. And so as Mr. Greenwood had mentioned earlier, I really want to give you all some background on the project and how we got to this point, and talk about a little bit about some of the history of the project as well. So with that, we can, I guess, go on to the presentation slides, please. Thank you. So there was a previous discussion of rail and light rail as a transit mode. We're very, fully aware of that. And as part of, as the project has evolved, one of the, pieces of it or background of it is that, light rail was part of an idea, a concept for Campbellton Road. As part of the More MARTA tax sales initiative, as talked about for expansion through the MARTA program, one of the processes that we go through is what we call an alternatives analysis, and it's really looking at, what's the most viable transit mode. So at the time, rail was identified, but as many of the projects we'll talk about, we go through this process to look at different modes, and just let everyone know that we understand that was part of the history, and it was part of the process that we looked at for the analysis. There's definitely a need to explore the alternatives more detail, and it really was at the beginning just a purpose of programming the entire program. And as we began to start the alternative analysis, we wanted to look at rail as well as bus rapid transit as modes for the corridor as well. Next slide, please. So the More MARTA Atlanta program is essentially was a part of the half-penny sales tax back in 2016, and it's part of it is looking at expansion of high capacity transit throughout the city of Atlanta. And with that, an intergovernmental agreement between MARTA and the city of Atlanta to lay out how these projects will be planned, designed, and implemented. And early on, we developed what we call a sequencing plan, and that's really a means to try to program the projects, to understand, how projects would evolve and connect over the time period of implementation. And so, we understand as part of that, we identified, certain projects. There were certain modes identified, as we mentioned before, at the time, light rail for Campbellton, but understanding that all these projects will need to go through a alternative analysis to really drill down to the technical analysis, as well as engaging the public and stakeholders to really understand what are the needs for each of the corridors and projects. Next slide, please. So this slide provides just a timeline of the alternative analysis. We started back in the fall of 2019, looking at both bus rapid transit and light rail transit. Those were the two modes that we talked about and presented. Early on, we had a public meeting in November of 2019 to highlight what we were going to look at, understand the needs of the community, and what alternatives and modes we were going to look at for the project. So this did include bus rapid transit and light rail transit. And as we progressed through the alternatives analysis, we did quite a bit of technical analysis, as well as going back and forth in order to really understand what those needs are and to communicate the benefits, the trade-offs for each of the transit modes as we move forward. As you're aware, back in February of this year, the staff through that whole 2-year process had identified a recommendation for bus rapid transit, center running bus transit. Again, this was just a staff recommendation based off of technical analysis and input received, but we're still looking to hear from you to really understand your feedback, answer your questions, and understand your needs related to the project. Slide, please. So bus rapid transit versus bus, what we call BRT, really the distinction is the buses, the vehicles themselves are more stylized premium vehicles that provide dedicated transit lanes. And these are exclusive transit lanes that only the transit vehicles can utilize to provide efficiencies for the service to be reliable and provide fast service along the corridor. There's other amenities that are provided at the stations to provide a more, a greater sense of opportunities as well at the station locations too. So we really want to just reiterate that with the bus rapid transit, it is a premium mode and has all the design features that you will see that will be RS too. So it's definitely a premium transit mode that we're looking at as part of this as well. So federal funding. So MARTA is looking to potentially pursue federal funding as part of the program and part of this project. And as part of that, with competing with federal funding, bus rapid transit has been seen as projects that have been in pipeline with the Federal Transit Administration's capital improvement grant program. And as part of that, in the past, rail has been implemented, but we're seeing more BRT projects in the fold. So we feel like this is an opportunity, and this is a trend that we're seeing throughout the nation because of the benefits of bus rapid transit with the more cost-effective means to be able to address the needs for those communities as well. Next slide. So this graphic really just shows 2008 versus 2021. So 2008, as you can see, there was quite a bit more light rail projects that were part of the federal pipeline of projects, but there's been a shift over the past 20 years or so, 10 to 20 years, as far as more and more bus rapid transit projects being funded at a federal level as well. There's definitely this opportunity that we see that really makes this project an opportunity to be successful, to gain additional funding at the federal level to leverage our local funds as well. So what I'm going to do now is introduce Tim Casa, who is our consultant team project manager, to really talk about why. What are the benefits of bus rapid transit? What are the elements as part of this project that it includes, and how it fully addresses the needs of the project? Tim.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I'll just jump straight to it. So Mark's segue, why center running or why RT is such a popular choice on the national level. Keep in mind too, when you pursue federal dollars, you're competing against other transit projects. So your project has to be out the rest projects. So you want to put your best, so you can win money. So I'll go put a slide of benefits. I'll touch on 5 of these. It's more cost effective. You get more money for more stuff. You get the extra dollar. Typically, BRT is generally less expensive than LRT. So you can take that money, that dollars you got, and leverage your local dollar toward other efforts. It's faster than bus, and BRT and LRT are very comparable in terms of their travel time. What makes it gives you the advantage is the transit lanes that it travel. It's not in your general purpose lanes. So when you are out here now on Campbellton Road, behind the bus and have pickup riders getting on and getting off, you have to stop it. But with this BRT service that we're recommending, you will be in a different lane than the BRT transit service. So both, it is a mutual benefit for auto as well as the BRT transit service. Touch on the third option, mobility options. The design that we have proposed now for this BRT service, it's going to be a huge or significant increase in pedestrian facilities, the sidewalks, making it more accessible to get to your stops, and exclusive. Well, I'll show you some renderings later on how it will look in terms of how you can compare how it looks today, how it could look. The fourth one is exceptional design. Despite what some people think, BRT, if it's designed the right way, it is very comparable to LRT. Some folks, and rightfully so, perceive LRT to be the superior because it's perceived as with more permanence, but there's nothing temporary about BRT service. Your stations are not meant to just move at will. The infrastructure of bike ped facilities, as well as the amenities along the corridor, which I'll get to later on. And lastly, quick completion. You get the same service, it's just as fast, it's more cost effective, and you can build it quicker. LRT takes longer to build than BRT. And at the onset of this project, that was one of the goals that we heard from the community. We want something and we want it fast. So BRT will meet that goal in terms of giving you quicker project delivery. We can go to the next slide. I want to touch on this for a bit. Mark has touched on it as well in terms of how we approach other projects. So BRT equity. MARTA and other transit agencies worldwide are exploring BRT. BRT is a very competitive travel mode. MARTA is considering BRT service in all its service areas. And I'm just going to point out 4 of them: Clifton Corridor, the top end of 285, Georgia 400, and South Fulton. As a transportation planner, sometimes before you begin your project, you have a stated goal that you want to set. Not until that technical analysis, that's where you can actually right size. Can we deliver what was envisioned? Through technical analysis, you may determine there is a more appropriate mode. And as Mark touched on, as well as Mr. Greenwood, it was always meant to be iterative. It was always going to be an alternative analysis. We had to answer the question, on Campbellton Road, is it best for BRT or LRT? You just don't want to fit any mode with no context reference. So you want to implement the perfect mode, the ideal mode for the corridor. So that's just the name of the other projects that BRT is being considered. Now, what is the final outcome of those studies? They're underway. But this slide is to give you reference that it's just not Campbellton Road that's trying to determine the mode. It's a very common process. Next slide, please. Mr. Greenwood touched on this earlier. The Summer Hill project, this is the first time, usually across the nation, it's not a thou shalt always happens this way, but generally speaking, your private sector does not invest in a corridor unless it's already in. So if it's a high capacity transit service, come afterwards. But as you see with Goldman Sachs, they invested just on the word, this is the plan that the BRT service is coming. So you can see on the screen, I won't touch on all of them, but it's the first transaction of a MARTA Goldman Sachs TOD Affordable Housing Initiative. $90 million investment, 250 affordable units, and it's a minority developer that's leading the project. In total, the initial increase to $200 million to fund more affordable housing. So I want to pause for a minute, going back to that perception that LRT is more associated with TOD, vice versa. Not at all. It's how you design the project and make it friendly and adaptable to economic development. So there's no one that has a higher propensity to take place. So I just want you to keep in mind, this is just a perfect example of how BRT is associated with a sizable economic development opportunity. Next slide, please. For those of you who are new to the project, this is just a very quick corridor map of this potential stations. There are 9. As you can see on the left, those are your station topologies. The key there is as we design the stations, we want the stations to blend in with the community. We're not going to design a huge box station that's not blending into a residential area. So your station types are your neighborhood residential, neighborhood activity center, community activity center, and lastly, regional activity center. So it's really about right sizing the station design to that community. We can move on to the next slide. These next two slides are just to give you a visual reference of how a center running BRT will look. So you see the guy on the left at the on the sidewalk. You see the burgundy lanes so those burgundy lanes, that's where the transit vehicles travel. So they make stops in the middle where stations are located in the middle, where your pedestrians and crosswalks will cross the street to get to stations. The cars are in the gray pavement area. They can keep, don't have to stop if a bus stops to load travelers and drop off travelers. So this is just a visual reference of how it could look, just for reference to see how it operates. We can go to the next slide. This is another example in terms of the facilities. I want you to take note of how wide the sidewalks are. This is intended to make it very accessible and encouraging for folks to walk to the transit stop. As Mr. Greenwood said, this is not just a pass-through. We want to make Campbellton a destination and activity center to support potential development in the area. So again, these are just renderings just to give you an idea to whet your appetite, how it could look. You can see the bike lane, the green, that's exclusive to the bike, and you can see the buses in the middle of the roadway. And you'll see these slides, these boards around the room too, to give you a closer look. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so we've been talking about BRT, LRT, BRT, LRT. So the center running BRT, I want to tell you the totality of the investment on the corridor. It's going to touch on mobility. I talked about the bike and pedestrian facilities, especially the sidewalks. The Greenbrier mobility, the transit hub. So those stations that you saw that previous slide, those are walk-up stations. You just walk up, it's very tight. But the Greenbrier Transit Hub, that's going to be a big transit hub. That's going to also help encourage development and improve the transit mobility of the entire corridor. Utilities. Now, when I touch on these, I'm telling you about the potential. I'm not presenting these as contractual, but this is what we're trying to do through the design. Place utilities on the ground where appropriate. You can't really see the picture, and I apologize, but you know the overhead power lines with the opportunity to tuck them underground. That just helps beautify the area and more aesthetically pleasing. Place environment where there's opportunities, the green stormwater improvements, transit development. That's been a recurring theme. I've already given you the example of Golden situation opportunity. So one in particular, and Jacob will be talking to you after the meeting around the boards. There's a lot of promising activity at Oakland City. So we want to make sure that the design of this corridor complements potential development, because the TOD and the transit service must be symbiotic. They must speak to each other and feed off each other. So that's very important that they complement one another. Last but not least, the workforce. So where there's opportunity for a workforce development program for instructional improvement, we're going to work with the city and all partners that be to keep the economic development corridor for those residents in the community. Next slide. This is just, I guess, say cherry on top for references. Their investments in Southwest Atlanta. I previously mentioned the transit hub at Greenbrier. There's also the Hamilton Heat Homes station upgrade. You also have the Oakland City Station upgrade as well. And last but not least, the safe routes to transit. It's your last mile connectivity and enhanced connectivity to bus service. For those of you who have been following this project, the 83 is the second performing bus route in the city. We don't foresee that bus route going away, but to alleviate redundancy, that service will be modified so it will complement the BRT service. But so that nice picture at the right corner. That's just a conceptual rendering of how Oakland City can look with the upgrade. So I appreciate your time and your patience listening to me. I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Toni Thornton. She's going to recap the most recent public engagement activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, everyone. As Tim mentioned, I'm just going to recap some of the public engagement strategies that we conducted in our most recent public engagement that occurred early this year in February. Public engagement started back in 2019. And as you all know, when COVID hit, things severely changed, and MARTA had to look at ways to pivot and how we could be creative in making sure that we were able to engage with community and get information out. Around this project is touching on the community engagement that occurred in February. I'm not going to bring up the slide for the most recent public engagement. It may be difficult to see, but we have information if you'd like to look at those specific numbers, but I'm just going to highlight a few of the numbers. We had about close to 200 people that came out for the in-person public engagement because we pivoted to a hybrid approach, meaning that we not only live stream, but we also had in-person, and to make sure that everyone would have an opportunity. We have social media where we push information out, and we put signs out throughout the community, as well as engage our stakeholders and working with our senior centers to get information to the resident coordinator to try to share that information with seniors. So we looked at all of the different stakeholders throughout the communities to look at how we could best get this information out to them. We realized during this process that actually virtual, we have a lot of people that look at that as a convenience and a way to look at our information, look at in a more convenient way. So with the virtual meeting room and the virtual meetings, we had close to 2,000 people that visited our virtual meeting room to get more information about this project. So these are just some of the things we're doing, but I want to just stress, that's why we're here. We want to hear from you in other ways of how we can better engage the community, but just wanted to highlight some of the things we did through this public engagement. Next slide, please. This slide, we're just touching on the survey touching on the survey that many people participated in. It was pretty split in terms of looking at LRT versus BRT. It's about 50-50 that, had some thoughts about the project. But we had close to all of the people that participated. We looked at the top tier, and most of the people were employed. We had commuters, people getting back and forth, and then retirees that participated in the survey. So we just wanted to touch on that. But they looked at the different modes of transportation, and they just weighed in. And so that is something that, that is something that was looked at in the survey. Now, I'm going to jump into the next slide, just talk about the timeline and where we're at, because you see quite a bit of information tonight. But if you look at that, and I don't know if you can see that, this is where we're at today. We're here tonight. We're here tonight to hear from you, to provide information, to provide the facts, but we want to hear from you in terms of how we better connect with all of you. The timeline here is going into the locally preferred alternative. That is going to go to our board for adoption in the summer of 2022. And once that occurs, the project team will continue with the analysis and the process, looking at environmental studies, looking at design and that sort of thing. And then this project is slated for 2023 to be completed in 2023. But there's a lot to be done between that time. And one of the things that we realize is in that, and with the information we're bringing tonight, that all of you are key. So I just want to thank all of you again for being here tonight and sharing your thoughts and feedback. We hope to get a lot of feedback from you, because during COVID and still today, we're looking at creating ways to connect with the community safely. And we understand your input is vital during this process. And that's how we're tonight and why we're going to come back. From you and how we can improve our outreach efforts, because we do want to get it right, okay? And after all, who knows this community better than you? Okay, we have a staff that works, we look at the different tactics and different strategies, but you know your community best, and so we want to hear how we work with you and partner with you to get the information to work with our team as we progress along. Also, along with just being here tonight and sharing the information, we have a survey, and this is a brief survey, and we're asking everyone to complete it, to participate, because it's another way for us to listen and learn and how we can better engage with you. And we hope that you will participate with the survey tonight. So with that, I am going to bring Collins back up. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So just a reminder, or if you don't know, we have some surveys in the back that you can go and fill out. And also there are QR codes on the postboard back that you can use your phone, and that will take you to the survey. So again, we would like for you to find out what we need to do more of and engaging in the community. Do we want to do more in-person meetings? Do we want to do design workshops? Do we want to do virtual workshops? Should we tour? Should we engage more with senior facilities? So we want to hear from you. So we really appreciate it if you fill out the surveys. Thank you. So what I'd like to do next, I understand, Reverend, that you'd like to have an opportunity to have folks come up and ask some questions to the MARTA team and some of the board members. What we'd like to do is we really want to make sure that you guys do that. We like to keep it to 1 or 2 minutes with the comments if possible. So anybody that has any questions.
Good. Will you give them a ring that hand up, please? Thank you. All right, listen. You have heard from Martha. They've expressed to you some plans and some ideas that they have, and then you have your own ideas. We're here tonight so that you can express what you feel and what you hope to see in this community. How many of you live over here? Okay, nice. Now, speak now or forever after holding thou peace. Don't say that they didn't show up and they're here to hear you. Now, I'm a pastor. You're the citizen. Is what do you want? Not what I want, not what Martha wants, but what do you want? It was your taxes, your money. It's time, if they got something better than what we heard, let's be understanding and accept it, or we come back and talk about other things, whatever. They're giving you the opportunity to even come back. I do believe we need to, one of my big concerns about people is getting us together. That's a challenge to anybody. And that's what I try to do. Not make decisions, but bring us together as Afro-Americans. We've been divided so long, but we were taught to be divided. We were taught not to speak the language that we should speak. We didn't come here speaking English. We had to learn it the best way we could. We didn't say $3, we said $3. We didn't say I'm going, we said I'm lying. Because we were trying to learn to speak English. Swahili and other languages were ours from Africa. Now we have to learn not to be divided. We have argued so much, we've never got nothing done. And I'm going to ask you now to give the opportunity to some of you to line up on both sides and ask questions so you get a good understanding from these wonderful people. So line up on both sides, and now very important people here. I want to ask you, the mayor representative, I think is Chief of Staff, is she here? Okay, we just want to make sure the city is represented. So there are some groups here that I learned that I would like to recognize before we ask questions. Can anyone here stand and tell me what group you represent in this community? We understand there are some groups in the community. Can you stand and tell us who you are? Yes. All right. Yes, ma'am. You with this group? All right. Anybody else that we can recognize? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anybody else from any groups in the neighborhood?
Community behind the West Bay Shopping Center.
You who?
The Meadows community behind West Bay Shopping Center.
Oh, yes, yes. Great, great. Anybody else in your groups? Yes. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, stand left, please. Who? Oh, yes. Right. Heard about you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Okay. Is any of you president here? I understand. Yes. Okay. Is anybody here from the new NP? Which one was that? Where are you, sir? We're looking for you. Come down here where we can see you. We definitely need to know you. You're the new president? Okay, brother, we were looking for you. Glad to meet you tonight. All right, let us, because I want you to take advantage of this opportunity while they're here. All Martha are here tonight. Will you all stand? Wow, look. All Martha is here tonight. They really want to work with you and make you happy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we'll take your first question, please. Now, state what you want, who you are, and what your answer. Question. Yes, over here.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay, my name is Connie Jeter. I live in this neighborhood. We were presented slides for the BRT. Do you have any slides for the LRT?
Who would like to answer that? Martha.
So I will invite our presenters to stay at the podium, Manjeet, as well, just to be prepared to.
Well, you all can sit right up here.
To address these questions as quickly as we can. So direct answer to that question, no, we came today to present the plan for what BRT is. We can absolutely go through LRT. We're just aware that the questions were more about, and this opportunity to say this, the aha moment for me came when there was a representative group, I won't name them out of respect for the person, someone called us up to represent the community, and they said they were going to argue on behalf of LRT. They didn't want BRT. And to the credit of this individual, they started the conversation by saying, so tell me, what is BRT? And that was my moment, is to say, people know what LRT is. I believe people know what rail is, and people, but it was clear to me that we needed to do a better job of explaining what BRT was. So for anyone that wants more information on LRT, we will absolutely unpack that. And there are pros and cons, but you know, we didn't bring that today as an opportunity for us to explain what we're talking about when we talk about BRT.
My name is John Haddock, a member of the Mount Carmel Baptist Church family, and we've been working on the assumption that probably across the street would have been a light rail transportation. I know the volatility of the market. You talked about the alternative analysis process. How are you going to address the uncertainty that comes from the volatility of the real estate market as you move forward? Because we can make these plans, but 10 months, 9 months, 2 years from now, this community could look very different.
All right, I will invite Jacob Vallow to join us. He's our Senior Director of Real and Transit-Oriented Development. And while he's making, I will say you're absolutely right. Real estate volatility is something that, you know, unless you claim the property and claim the real estate, you don't have control about what prices are going to be 6 months, 2 years from now. So Jacob will probably get a better explanation, but I would concur that the sooner we make our decisions and claim property and corridors, the more control we have over the process.
Thank you, Ollie. I apologize for not walking in. Bad back and these beautiful views are a little comfortable, but I'm happy to be here with everybody this evening. It's a great question. The property markets are absolutely on fire, as everyone knows right now, and this investment will be a great one for. So there's going to be a lot of interest. I think the most simple way to answer this is, you know, we have formed some innovative financing partnerships with not only Goldman Sachs, which Cully and mentioned, which was a successful transaction at the Summerhill BRT, but we've also formed a partnership with Morgan Stanley's Community Development Finance Group and the National Equity Fund to preserve units. And so we had our first closing December on a 200-unit complex that was going to go to market rate. We preserved that one at Sparrow West End Station. And so we're actively looking now in the community, met with various community members, going around and just trying to get smart, and would love to hear from the community which particular properties are, and we're here to learn more every day, and again, appreciate the opportunity to be here and learn from you all. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
My name is Loretta Green. I moved to the Campbellton Road area in 1973. So I've been here representing as long as you have. And I've seen what we had then and what we have now. And what I'm hearing about the LRT is going to bring economic development back to the area. So I would like to know, because I have worked with some of the large stores trying to get them out, Aldi and everyone trying to get them back into the area. I'm always getting reason why. So I would like to know, how does BRT, LRT bring back economic development? Because it seems to me you're taking people out of the community to jobs rather than bringing them into the community. And my other concern is also, to get all out, the maintenance of these areas. I know you contact out your maintenance projects. I walk around Greenbrier Mall. I have to constantly call to get your stations clean and your garbage picked up. So those are two concerns I have.
Thank you. I love that question because it allows us to speak to the idea that given a choice, we have one pot of money. We can spend it all on an LRT, and that's it. So you're still gonna have to walk along the roads that are missing sidewalks, or the sidewalks that are suspect in the streets. You're still gonna have you know, that sense that the population has dwindled because people have had the opportunity to invest in all the things we've been talking about. BRT gives us the opportunity to do the transit-oriented development, to stimulate investments like Goldman Sachs, to bring jobs to the community. So like I said, or I think I said earlier, I may not have, but instead of having a system that passes through, we want to make sure that the environment, the community is developed so that people want to stay, spend, and contribute to an economy. We've called this Main Street for Southwest Atlanta. We were toying with the idea of calling it the jewel of Southwest Atlanta. By the time this plan is finished, executed to our expectations, it'll be the kind of place where, to your point, it's not just about people leaving to go to their work. Work is going to be here, and it's not just about people passing through. It's going to be a nice place to stay. We can't do it all, but with some key investments that will encourage others, and that's the way Jacob has taught me that TOD works.
Let me interrupt something here right quick. I know people, and I know my people. The key thing, I think a lot of them maybe don't know how to ask the question. The advantage of the light rail versus what you're opposing? And what would be the advantage of both? And what would not be the advantage? If I'm told that light rail, all of them funding will go for just the light rail, plain simple English. If you go with anything else, it would be for the development of Hamilton Road. The issue that I think a lot of them are going to ask questions is, where's the money going to go? If that money is there, what committee is going to make sure that it's going to whatever it's supposed to go to, that it goes straight to Campbellton Road? I'm asking the right question or not? You want to know where is the money going, whatever it is. That if 200, whatever $1 million is not going for the light rail, that is going for the development of Campbellton Road, we need a committee. We need a group of people working with you to gain the confidence among people. Be honest about it. Our people lost a little faith in Mark, and it needs to be built back up. If you didn't come ready to tell them what they want to hear, then it's by the time you all ask questions and find out the difference. If Campbellton Road needs redevelopment, from what I'm hearing, we need sidewalks, we need crime, we need police protection, we need a precinct. They're proposing to give you more than just a rail system. What is the advantage of having a light rail versus what you're proposing? And that's what I think they want to know. Go ahead, sir.
Pastor. That is the question that I've asked when people would contact Marta and say, we want rail. The first thing I would say is why? And the majority of the time, I just got a response with eyes closed, we want rail, because that's what we were promised. We want rail. I said, all right, but tell me what it is about rail that you're looking for. And very few folks will unpack that. What they do, they said rail is faster, rail is more convenient, rail is more reliable. And they are right if they're talking about rail compared to 83 bus, the regular transit service. They're wrong if they're talking about rail compared to a center running BRT. So when you, and we do have a graphic, I just don't know if we've got folks here that can speak to it about the throughput and the timing, the amount of real minutes to take from point A to point B when you compare rail to a center running BRT. Now remember, side running BRT is a different story because you're going to have cars turning in front of you, and you've got traffic. So that is an inferior product compared to the center running, but the center running gold standard BRT achieves all the desires of the folks that are willing to unpack it for me, say in terms of speed and throughput and reliability. Center running BRT does all of that, but also allows us the extra funds to invest in the community, and that's
invest in the community in what way?
So we talked about the health of the community, the wet infrastructure that needs to be repaired, and that we can actually get into that and build it. Green space and parkland and developing green space to remain. Sidewalks that are complete and solid and allow people the ability to actually make their way, whether they're ambulatory or non-ambulatory, to have a chance of making it to the alignment. Arterial transit routes. In other words, we talked earlier about the 83 and the ability to change that routing and go to places where you don't have bus service today, so that arterial service can get you to the alignment. These things we can't do if we're spending all of our money on a rail system.
That's crime.
Crime.
What would I to do?
Yeah. So let me say this: as a transit agency, I can't commit to eliminating crime in the neighborhood. I think that everyone can understand that. But what I will say is, sometimes crime comes when our population dwindles. But bringing back transit-oriented development, bringing back commerce and population and people back to Campbellton Road, more good people means less bad people. We'll also, because we'll have real estate here, we'll have fixed assets here. The MARTA department will also have a larger presence. The MD will have a presence in the community. So for, these are the indirect benefits. Now, willing to, ask my team to jump in if I'm missing anything, but these are the indirect benefits.
One more thing. You told us what that advantage would be with that. What's going to be the advantage with the light rail that they voted for in this community? Will it bring jobs? Will it bring investors?
So light rail it is possible that light rail brings investment. And quite frankly, I suspect I'd be talking out of turn if I didn't, because then, MARTA would never build another light rail system, in the future. So that's quite possible that light rail will bring these things. The point we're making is folks think that it's only light rail that'll bring it. The point we're making is that BRT brings it also. So we can dispel the myth that light rail is the only mode that brings jobs and investment. Then we're on an even playing field, and then people will be more open to listen to what else you can get.
One other question. Will it enhance anything as far as the airport for the development with light rail? From the city to here to the airport?
Correct me if I'm wrong, team, but I don't see light rail being an advantage for your connection to the airport over BRT. The point is, both modes get you to the heavy rail system, and from there, you're shot into the airport.
Is the city planning to invest with you doing the light rail? What commitments come from the city as far as development in these areas? That is money coming for that. So what's your proposal for that?
And let me introduce Manjit Renu, the Chief Capital Officer from MARTA.
After this, I'll take your other question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. I just want to build upon what Mr. Green was saying a moment ago about the light rail and connection to the airport. So the BRT, which is a permanent infrastructure investment, like light rail, except for the steel tracks and the extensive signal systems, the BRT makes a connection across Campbellton from the Oakland City Station to the Greenbrier Mall and a little bit beyond there. But because it isn't as costly due to we don't have to build as much infrastructure to move it basically the same amount of people, then we can do the arterial rapid transit that provides connections to 80 homes, to West End Station, to East Point. And so it makes a variety of ways for people to connect to and from the airport, which is a major job center. And undoubtedly, there are a lot of people who work who live in Southwest Atlanta. And so by having the spine of the BRT and then the ability to fund the additional bus enhancements with this arterial rapid transit, there are many different ways to get to and from the airport with that investment.
All right, we'll take you, ma'am, to the right.
Yes. First, I'd like to thank MARTA for having these community meetings. I've been present to, this is like the third one for me. So I've gotten plenty of information for me, and I have kind of like a comment and questions in parts. First of all, it seems like we are bringing the issue is whether we want bus or rail. The question is, I don't know exactly, well, what are we trying to solve with this? Because we don't currently have a traffic problem. And I think I go back to the Reverend when he talks about distrust. I don't see the distrust of MARTA. I think we see a distrust of government. We see a distrust of systems here. Now, Campbellton Road has been, I've been down almost 40 years. I live now right here on the East Point in Atlanta. And right now, what we see now is not what we saw 40 years ago. We used to have businesses here. We used to have investment. It's a nice residential. It's a nice mix of residential and commercial. What we are hearing, we're hearing Goldman Sachs is coming in and they're giving us 250 units. I believe there's over 10,000 people on the waiting list for affordable housing. So when we hear about the investment that's coming in, just who is this investment for? And for those who already own property that aligns Campbellton Road, what is the difference in the footprint, the size of the footprint that will be needed for rail versus bus? Assuming rail will have a bigger footprint. than bus. So this will affect those who directly own property there. How they be compensated for the property that they have. What will this look like in terms of construction? Because we saw what happened with the streetcar, how that disrupted Old Fourth Ward, Edgewood, all those areas, and how businesses took a hit. Some businesses went out of business because they could not outlive the construction. So I really don't care because, to be honest, I can make it from Oakland City down to Greenbrier at a pretty good clip. The problems where I see where we do need rail, Old National, Camp Creek, 285, the south side of 285. It's ridiculous trying right down 166, right? But already in an established neighborhood. So how we keep the character of the neighborhood, because we have rezoning coming. We've heard about Campbellton Road overlay. It seems if there someone has a vision, but no one's telling us what this brand vision is. And my concern is that at the end of the day, will this vision include us who are here? I'm tired of being the nomad, moving from one part of the city to another, because we saw what development did for the north side, from all along the north side. From Sandy Springs on that, Dunwoody on that. We saw that development go there. We didn't see, we're not seeing homes with there, we're seeing businesses put there. So, and why now? Because we've been waiting all these years and been surviving. So why invest in this now? Is this really for us, or is this for somebody else?
Well,
Thank you. There's a lot there to unpack. I will start, and then I will let the team take the parts that I missed. But okay, so why now? Let me start there. A couple of things have happened. One is part of the MARTA 2014 program, so it's not now. That program was introduced somewhere around 2018, 2017, something like that. So this has been a consideration since, a serious consideration since then. The last few months, you'll note that there's been a lot of commitment from our federal partners, from the state and from the federal government to invest in transit. So we're suddenly beneficiaries of a lot of funds. So these things that we've had in the pipeline are now suddenly projects that we can build on. So even some projects that were, the Small Starts program, limited projects from $300 million and less. And a lot of these projects cost more than $300 million. Suddenly the ceiling's been raised to $400 million. We're able to put all of these projects in a more nimble project landscape and get the things done. So we just asking the board today for the ability to spend more money on our internal workforce and our consultants, so we can actually be prepared to hit the ground running and build these things now that the funding is here. We talked about rail and the effect on businesses. And I'm not speaking disparagingly about rail, but I do concur that it's a long time frame. And I come from a city, Toronto, has the largest streetcar network in North America. And we just finished, we're not finished, but it seems that we just keep working on the Eglinton Crosstown and LRT project. Right along Eglinton, one of the major economic corridors in the city of Toronto. I don't know the percentage, but it's well over 30% of the businesses along that corridor went out of business waiting for the rail project. It's not just the businesses, it's disruption, that the neighborhood lived with, the traffic congestion. BRT, as we heard from my colleagues, is a fast build. We'll get out of that pain quicker and get to the gain that much sooner. Gentlemen, Tim and Manjeet, and I'll turn it over to you.
Let me get to this other person. Then we can address you, because I think you're running out of time.
And I am for BRT. I mean, if that's between one or the other, I'm for BRT. I'm just afraid that I won't be here.
Are you afraid that you're gonna not have the business that you promised, or are you afraid of what it's going to do in the future?
I'm afraid that the neighbors that I see now will no longer be there. I got displaced out of Capitol View because of gentrification during the pandemic. And so, and this is the second time this has happened to me. So, and my best friend is here. She has been back here. How long have y'all been going on? Almost 50 years. Been her friend for 40. So I don't want to see the price tag for
all in favor of what she's talking about in the community. Where you stand? Seniors. Yes.
They ain't with me.
Oh. I mean, don't want the light rail. Stan, don't want the light rail. How many of you want the light rail? Stan waiting so I can see you.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think they didn't understand. Can you restate the question, Hester?
Yeah, let me see it. So make sure, let Martha see you. Some of you can talk, but your standing will say a lot to them. How many of you want the light rail? Stand. Okay. All right. How many of you take your seat? Don't want the light rail? Whatever I said. Yeah. Bill, come on. Everybody stand that wants that. Yes. I want BRT. That means you don't want the light rail. Wow. I don't know if we have money for that rich yet.
Undecided.
Undecided. That's powerful. So I'm going to ask a little more expert. I'm going to let you ask them again what they really want, because I'm confused myself. Do they understand the difference in the light rail? And what the advantage will be? If you could just, in a nutshell, tell them again, without a lot of rhetoric, what's the advantage of the light rail versus what you propose? Now, please listen.
All right, I'll try to do this as succinctly as I can. I'm not saying anything disparaging about light rail. The advantage of light rail over conventional bus is great. It's reliability and it's throughput and speed and a permanent structure that allows developers to say, well, this is not just a bus stop in the sand. This is going to be here for a while. Let me go ahead and develop around it. But those advantages disappear when you compare them to center running BRT. That is, the speed of the BRT from point A to point B is the same. That is, the throughput of BRT is the same. That is, the reliability of your trip from point A to point B is the same, because there's just like rail, there's no traffic in the way. In fact, Manjeet can correct me if I'm wrong, but this particular center running BRT has more dedicated guideway than a light rail system does, right? So in fact, not only does that advantage disappear, BRT maintains the advantage over light rail on this particular alignment.
Can that be proven?
Yes, it can
go. Other cities.
Yeah, where's our testimonials? Do we have the video testimonials here, Greg?
They just mentioned something downtown, what is happening, the lost business that are tearing up the streets, whatnot. Can there be any way somebody can get better understanding and see that has had this in their neighborhood and saw the advantage and the disadvantage?
Absolutely. We had previewed a video earlier that we were going to bring here. I'm just learning that it's not here, but we can put it online. In fact, that's what we'll do. It'll be online. A number of testimonies. This one in particular, if I remember correctly, because I just saw it today for a few minutes, but it's a gentleman that used to live in Atlanta. He's taken photos and he's sharing photos of himself over the years standing next to trains because he's a rail aficionado. He loves trains, he loves rail. He's moved to another city, and in that city, he's become accustomed to BRT, and he stands there and says, look, I'm from Atlanta, I love rail, but I now understand BRT, and I love this. So we asked him to put that on film, and so we'll post it online. So that's one example of a testimonial. There are any number of cities that we can bring to bear this. And the fact that we have about a 40% upswing in the number of FT applications for BRT is testimony to the fact that all these jurisdictions, all these cities, all these transit agencies have come to understand the benefits of BRT.
You're aware that Atlanta is becoming the biggest city in the world. You are aware of that.
It's the greatest city in the world.
Well, it's about to become the biggest city in the world. Corporations, billions of dollars of corporations are moving to Atlanta. Simply when I talk to them, they say because of the airport. And that's one of the concerns with the younger people in this area. The future for them is the light rail versus whatever you propose. I think one of the things that they don't quite understand, and listen, no, I'm 71 years old, I'm a senior. But one thing we have to realize, we won't be around here that long. And the most important thing is what's going to help the younger people coming up in this area for their future, not our future. I know we've been 40 and 50 years here, but we ain't going to be around here 50 more years. And what's going to help the development of us as years come, that will bring young people back when we move on. I'm a senior pastor. My son is coming on behind me, and I made him co-pastor. I didn't build all this, got 10 acres in the back for me. That's for him, his future. I came from Summer Hill. We still own our church in Summer Hill. So we've seen the changes in Summer Hill that we've never seen before. We got to think ahead now as saints that things are changing. And the advantage these people are here to express to you the difference. One last thing. Marta can tell us what they can spend money for versus what they can spend money for, is what I like to hear. If you can't spend on police system or security or fighting gangs with that funding, those are things that I think they need to know pros and cons of what you can do and can't do, even with that much money. If you can answer that for some of them out there.
Sure, and I'll invite Manjeet to go up and finish this sentence, but we have core transit spending, which is directly within our control. We have supplemental spending, which is things like safe streets to transit, where we have the wherewithal to go deeper than the alignment and go into the sidewalks and the lighting, sure, all that's there. And then in terms of the neighborhood development items, this is where, come on up, Manjeet, this is where we negotiate with the city, and we do have a commitment from the city to work with us to incorporate some of these investments that we've been talking about.
Yes, one of the things that I do is coordinate land use planning with our transit planning, because the two are complementary. So the infrastructure investment allows for additional development. So we look up and down Campbellton, there's a lot of unutilized space there. That could be housing for those who live here.
What kind of housing?
Variety of different housing, depending on the station type. So on one of the exhibits that's back there on the wall, and actually there's that one over there. And hopefully in a moment we'll go to this more one-on-one format so we can talk through those. There's different types of stations depending on the character of the community. And so the type of housing would be compatible with the character of the community around the stations.
And income.
Right, and a variety of different housing types meet different income types, including the size of housing. What you see in Atlanta is, and also here in Southwest Atlanta, a large single family home properties. And those become really expensive recently. And it doesn't meet the needs for everyone for their housing. So we need to provide more choices for housing, for different income types, for different stages in people's lives. And transit investment and stations there allow for different types of houses, smaller, more dense. It doesn't require a big yard that you have to spend half your weekend doing. And this investment in partnership with Atlanta, and Atlanta's the one that controls the land use around the station, you work in partnership, and the infrastructure needs to be there to support that level of investment. And if we're not putting in the transit to invest in the community, then it's hard to densify the land use regulations around there to build the various types of housing that people need. But as you said, Atlanta is growing fast. And that pressure on the supply of housing is going to continue. And so this infrastructure investment will allow the city of Atlanta to increase these, allow supply of housing and reduce those pressures and the risk of displacement. Because it's the lack of housing supply that is pushing prices up, that is causing people to be displaced. And we want to be a part of reducing that pressure to help people stay in the community.
All right, I really got the people to get more upset. Some of them want to ask some questions. So let me get to this next person, please.
Hi, thank you, Pastor. I'm Sherry Williams. I was Georgia Stand Up. You know, we've been from the beginning, helping to disseminate information so that people can make the right decision. The two questions I have is, in the future, Marta, can you have a list of terms? I've heard several people say, use the term more dedicated headway, and I know what that means, but a lot of people don't. And for these sessions, it will be good, even ERT, LRT, TLD, if you have a car, because the first time people hear it, it won't stick, so people can really follow along with what you're saying. And then the next thing that I would like to know is, what is the Clifton corridor? What are they gonna get? Because, you know, this emotional expectations that we have for where our happiness is going, we need to make sure that we are not disenfranchised with getting less than some other communities trying to get. That's a huge thing. And the last thing, regardless of BRT or LRT, it's clear that people are being displaced. Can the community be a part of the conversation on the displacement package so that we will have something that is not going to leave people homeless, and for the people that are left, they will not, they are able to stay, they won't lose their houses based on the fact that they simply can't afford the taxes. So we need to be a part of the conversation on the displacement package. Just in other words. Thank you.
Next person to the mic.
First of all,
She
thank
wanted
you.
to answer.
Oh.
Sorry, I heard a comment. What was there a question in there, Ms. Williams?
Oh.
Can the community be a part of the conversation and the displacement package? And the other one was, what is the Clifton corridor? What are they getting, and how did you recommend?
So the Clifton corridor, one of the slides addressed that it is going through the very same process that Campbellton Road is going through. So I can't tell you today what Campbellton Road's going to get. I can't tell you what Clifton corridor is going to get, but I can tell you that the conversation that Clifton corridor is enduring right now is BRT versus LRT. So I know there are a lot of folks that thought Clifton corridor is getting LRT period, but that was just misinformation. Again, you know, everybody knew everything. So Clifton corridor is having the same conversation, gearing up to have the same conversation that we're having right now. And I'm sorry, I can't remember all the questions, but the community conversation, absolutely. You know, when we've got our modes and alignment and everything set, Marta continues to have open conversations. We continue to have open board meetings where community comment is available. We continue to post online so that, you know, even if we can't come up to personal one-to-one conversations, that any interested member of the community keep abreast of where we're headed and make a point of making, you know, either contacting us or coming to our board meetings and making comment. That way we keep the conversation alive.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
First, I would like to say thank you, Marta, for coming out to the community, and Pastor for opening up your church to allow this meeting to take place. Secondly, as I sat in the back for a little bit, I see that you can't serve two masters. You can only serve one. So the point that he's saying is everybody wants economic, everybody wants growth. Well, growth and economic costs. It costs one or two things. It's gonna cost your livelihood, or it's gonna cost you.
Right.
So for me, I am for bus rapid transit, and I'll say that because I lived in Los Angeles for a number of years, and it does work, but the only difference in Los Angeles is that the streets are longer. When I say longer, I mean long. So they're not going in turns and twists with different tours throughout the neighborhoods. You have to walk up to your main lane to get on that rapid transit. There's really not a difference. I know everybody wants train flying through here, and that's great. That's great, but it's very, very it's very, very costly. Tracks are very, very expensive. I can tell you that. I don't even do the kind of work, but they are very expensive to lay here. And for me, what I'm seeing on Campbellton Road, depending on how far you went as doing the diagnostic for the mileage, I don't know how far you went down because Campbellton Road breaks off. So it continues over near being healed. So I don't know if y'all went down that far, which is going into Fulton County. So I don't know that. But some of the streets are narrow for me.
Yeah.
From Oakland City, those streets are narrow.
Yeah.
So for rail to come through here, you would take 250 feet. And y'all can look this up if you want to. It's 250 feet of your land and property, so basically your house, to actually implement that with those renderings that they showed y'all. And that's the truth. So anyhow, bus out here is good for over here for right now. Not to say that we can never have it.
Oh,
You can always have it, but you can't serve two. You got to serve one. So you got to choose which one you want for me. And for me, I only serve one. And I think I'm looking at need, not the want. So I think that that's necessary to have that. That's just beautifying the area. And I'll be honest with you, I don't need all that over here. It's just God said I got everything I already need. Everything secondary there wants. So for me, that's all I have to say. So thank you.
now that's a good question. Now let this rest on your mind. What do you want? What do you really want? We need. Like I said last meeting with the mayor, I don't care what you put over here. If we don't do something about the crime, don't nobody want to come. Nobody gonna eat in your restaurant. Who gonna come in a place and be mugged? So we got to see the advantage of money coming our way that we can use for something seriously needed. Fighting crime, but like young lady said, having a nice street and all transit system is good to have, but who's coming up? So we got to think deeply about what we are going to do with the funding we have, what's going to benefit us more than what we like. So let's continue on. Yes.
Okay.
I'm not taking sides. I'll make you think.
I want to thank you for hosting this event. My name is Judy Walker. I've been involved in the community too long. I live in Oakland City currently. When they announced when Magnuson was closing, I initiated the community engagement around the redevelopment for Max. So I've been at this for a very long time. And I commend you for hosting this event here at the church, but we need more buy-in from the city of Atlanta. When we were doing zoning some years ago around Fort Mac, long before the hurricane table, they had meetings over at the Atlanta area tech in a large auditorium. And I want to say when it comes to community engagement, because I took big issues that did not have adequate community engagement around the initial meetings with the redevelopment of Fort Mac. They did a mailing, many people didn't, but when it was put on TV, people were out the door from the community. So when you want to reach the masses, you go back to mass communication. And, you know, radio, TV, and the old-fashioned door-to-door knocking, they used that last year in the election, you know, to get people out, and it works. You know, that's why you have all these advertisements. People spend money, you spend money getting people to ride martyr spend money, getting people the digital divide, putting it on Facebook. Someone, Sherry, that spoke before me, sent me a text. That's the only way I knew about this meeting tonight. The majority of the ridership is a few months, maybe a month or two ago. Some of the MARTA staff came and met with a few of us at the Oakland City MARTA station. And we said then, we need more of a presence. You're not reaching the true ridership that you need to reach with this. I may take MARTA occasionally, and I don't feel that I have the same buy-in with my opinion as someone who rides it every day or on a regular basis. So, you have to do that deep dive in community engagement of really reaching the people and going out. I've seen a few people, I've seen flyers, surveys here and there, but, when you really have people at the MARTA stations on a regular basis. So that's one with community engagement. I'd be happy to work. There are ways that we can deepen that dive for community engagement.
Thank you. Are we gonna have to be out at 9? I will give you 30 minutes.
I'll be
So
real quick.
The
Okay,
last
then I
question.
want to say
have to get somebody.
with that, in terms of what with the density population, the many people not needing big lots, the density zoning that is trying to get around the MARTA stations to increase density. That's mainly targeting the Black community because the majority of MARTA rail stations are in the Black community, and there's no one who's going to put money, who's going to give any of these homeowners money to increase the density on their lots. So we already get targeted and get harassed by investors daily wanting to buy homes. So now they're like, oh, let me give them $200,000 so I can go make $1 million, put 4 or 5 units there. There's nothing that's been put in place to, so many of the issues, there's so many vast issues with this. When you're looking to increase density and you're looking at a middle income Black community, what is the true financial impact? If I can't get the money to build and construction is high right now, how is that going to benefit me?
Okay, thank you. Just a second, let me get to you, sir. All right. And then I get to you. I go from one to the other.
Again, my name is Michael McClure. I'm the Chief of Staff for Councilman Antonio Lewis for the City of Atlanta. I thank you, Pastor Paul, the House of God, to allow us to have a conversation today, right? I'm sorry that you all, MARTA, were not here for the first conversation that we all had, but you've seen a room full of people who said consistently that they want to see life. You've seen here today, many folks will say the same. And it feels very much like you all have already made your mind up about what you want to do from the presentation. These people here and the presentation that you're showing new members as well. Because we sat at the table together. Within the month of our being in office, saw the same presentation with 3 or 4 words about life. Now, he being a new councilman, we had no idea about the historical context of this conversation until we went to the community to actually find it out. We talked community member after community member, elected official after elected official, to find out that there had been a promise to me flight bread. There have been more conversation around labor to make sure they take your tax dollars to further their program, to build their organization, and switch in. Because now the conversation is so powerful about bus rapid transit. And don't misunderstand. I understand that you all feel that there are some advantages with bus rapid transit, but I will go on the words of the past, tell both sides. Why are we not hearing both sides of the organization are full of experts? Why are we not hearing both sides of this argument when the people obviously want to hear both sides? And the fact that you all come to the house of God here in this community that will benefit from a conversation about both sides, about an education about what both options mean, it's hurtful to me because I care about the people here. Antonio Lewis cares about people here. And so I question you, how much you all really care about Campbellton? Because if you really do, consider the fact that one of the biggest factors in deciding whether or not bus rapid transit or light rail transit is even a factor is that corridor slated for actual growth. Do you believe that the future of this community in 10 years? Do you believe what it should look like in 15 years is better than what it looks like today? Do you believe in the potential of this community than it was 50 years ago when this is about our first home? We believe in what this community can be, but I ask you all right now, let's have a very, very sober conversation, not about immediate impact. I think it's worth having a conversation about immediate impact. But let's also have a powerful conversation about what do we want this community to look like in 20 years. When Pastor's son is here, when we're thinking about what to do, when he's thinking about what to do with those acres in the back. Let's have a powerful conversation about what this community looks like in 20 years. When there's children will inherit that home. Because here for the long haul. And when you all are going to get the jobs and your other projects and you've already put this bus transit here, these folks have to stay. And so I ask you to have a real conversation about every option. Because the fact is, we can sit here and talk about the promise that was made all day. We can sit here and talk about the tax dollars that were spent and dedicated to a promise that you all made. Because there was a promise. We didn't pass that tax because we wanted to pass the tax. Folks weren't paying more tax dollars because they thought they was getting another bus outside. That was based on the thought that they would get light rail. So if we're not doing that now, let's make sure we say it out right. But let's not have a presentation that's leaning more to BRT than LRT. Let's have a real, true, equitable conversation about every option this community has. And I thank you all for the time.
One of the things I want to point out is that we started this presentation by saying there was no promise of rail. And so I'm not sure how else to say it. We made that clear. We showed the documentation. We've got lots more. We can go around at the back room. You can talk to the subject matter experts. It was always, and I say iterative means, if you follow the project plan of any of our major installations, start by saying if it's rail or if it's BRT or if it's rail. That conversation has carried for years. So for someone to take one piece of paper and say contextualize it as a promise ad infinitum, we couldn't make that promise. Clearly, MARTA's not in a position to decide today that it's LRT or BRT. We could never have made that decision 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. So unequivocally, let me just say this clearly, there was not a promise for rail. And we can back that up till the cows come home. That's number one. Number two, we came here today to explain our plan for a main street for South Atlanta and an investment in South Atlanta under our locally preferred alternative of BRT. Had I known that you wanted a 50% of the time on BRT and 50% on the time on a mode that you say you want already, that means you already know what light rail is. So I'm thinking I need to come here and tell you what BRT is. That's what I asked the staff to prepare. And so if you get something on light rail, we'll be happy to engage you on that. Absolutely. And you will learn, you will find that what I said, you will find that what I said earlier about the advantages of LRT over BRT you'll see for yourself, and we'll just go ahead and compare, because Pastor asked the very same question, why LRT? So thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you. And that's what I have. I have a logistical question for you. I had 15 years in transportation here in Atlanta. I worked at MARTA, and I worked for 10 years in Florida DOT. I worked in South Florida where they have private rail, they have commuter rail, they have all of that. So my question is logistical. Every meeting that I went to and there was something proposed, we had something we could look at. We had a design of what BRT looked like. We have a design of what LRT looks like and the cost associated with both. And I think if people had a visual, where they can sit there and look and see what it's going to take for Campbellton Road to look like it's gonna look either one, you can have this great discussion. So my question to you is, when can your planning department put that, we have something to look at?
Thank you. So, a great question, and I appreciate that coming from someone with the field. I'll ask the gentleman here in front to talk to the fact that we did that. During, we are 3 or 4 years in right now, but at the beginning, we did what the gentleman's recommending. So gentlemen, please speak to the outlay and the outreach and the schematics and all that had happened years ago.
Yes, Mr. Greenwood. So we did have a process. As you mentioned, we started off in the fall of 2019, and really was initially to introduce the project and really understand kind of what we normally was the purpose need, and understand what the purpose of the project is, what are the needs to serve the project. And so we went through this process, and back last summer, we had a series of meetings to present results. So we presented the results of both bus rapid transit and light rail transit. And what we did was try to show as much as possible what are the differences of costs, impacts, benefits to each. And so we do have that material. That's material we provided before. And so just wanted to reiterate that that has occurred, but we need to provide additional material related to that. That's something that's being pulled together as well.
Everybody here from the mayor's office say what the mayor said. That's the chief.
If I can, Pastor,
Yes, please.
I'll say this. The mayor and I did speak about this topic at Campbellton Road, right. And the mayor is aware of Marta's efforts, but what he said to me was what he's really interested in is making sure that Marta has taken the steps necessary to speak to the community. So he is not prepared to weigh in one way or another until he's sure that the community concerns have been taken into account, and until he's sure that Marta has taken the steps necessary to make sure they're out here talking to the community. So notwithstanding the couple of years of effort in the past, that's part of the reason that we're back, is that our mayor has been clear in saying he's for the people and he wants to make sure that the people have been heard. So that's the one message I can carry forward.
Yes, ma'am. You. Yes.
Okay. I'm Virginia.
Jump to the mic, sweetheart.
Good afternoon. I'm Virginia Bruton. I live in there and I go to this church. First of all, I want to say this. Campbellton Road has been long forgotten. It's like you just swept under the rug. I mean, there are very little things going on in our neighborhood, but for now we have poor lighting and hardly any sidewalks. And it's so dark and here in our neighborhoods. I know you didn't mention the crime, but we have a lot of crime out here as well. And how are you going to address seniors that live in the neighborhood, and how is it convenient for us? I'm senior. So what is the convenience for the seniors as well as the upcoming adults and the young generation that are coming up in the neighborhood? We're fighting, but it's like a listen path. So we need help over here. And what part of the
BRT
and LRT? You lost me somewhere there. I had a lot of questions, but I didn't want to make them too long. But I'm kind of confused as where you're trying to do one with the other, or they're both combined.
Right.
And what are you going to do with the infrastructure as well? Where's our tax dollars going? That's what I'd like to know.
Let me let someone that they have in the rear that can talk to you more extensively about the difference, and I think that can help you understand a lot more of what's happening here.
Certainly.
Will you assign someone with her?
I'll speak to you directly when this is over, and I'll bring you to the right table.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You.
Hello, my name is Mona Mohammed. I've spoke at a board meeting with Marta before, as well as the last town hall meeting. Of course, I'm still on the same page saying that we need a light rail system for our community. If people did talk about what about the younger crowd, and I can't speak for everyone, but just on my behalf and everything else like that. I love to see Campbellton Road grow. I put up a business here inside of Greenbrier Mall. I love my community so much that I will, the time that's needed to really talk about this more. I hate to say this, I do apologize to Marta today because a lot of fingers have been pointed at you guys, but in actuality, you guys aren't wrong. You guys are trying your best, and to think back to us, we gotta educate each other. We have to understand what we really want and need and what will come with this. Regardless of if we get the LR, teacher certification is going to happen for our community. Atlanta is one of the fastest growing cities in the States. And what else are they going to do with this that hasn't been touched? They're going to gentrify it, whether it's in your hands or someone else's hands. And I do thank Marta to think of us in this project to try to bring the gentrification laws in our hands, but I don't think we need the bus rail system. In our presentation that we just saw today, I see that you guys are saying, oh, the sidewalks, the different things that will bring more riders, but it's the second most bus route we use. So it doesn't matter if we have sidewalks or not over there to get more riders because they're using it. The community uses the public transportation that's already offered to us. So why not give us an upgrade? It's gonna take a minute for this to happen. So when this does happen in the future, okay, let's go ahead and do something bigger because we don't get anything. We haven't got anything touched on Campbellton Road for over 25 years. I'm 26, so I know nothing has been touched over here. So why not start with something big when the budget has already been put there? Why take away from it? I'm very optimistic, and I think if we ask as a community or these little things from other people, I don't believe Marta can do everything that you guys are saying for us. Like a lot to get out of you guys. We get so many broken promises within the community from the city. I'm not downing you guys, but it's gonna take a lot. And I'd rather us get what we are, quote unquote, promised, even though we said we weren't promised, but something that was budgeted for, and just go ahead and get it because it's been already said that it's possible. And then we start again and ask for other things from other people. Again, very optimistic. So I think that all it takes is just asking. I'm asking for my, just give us the light system, and then we ask other people and other times in the future, as you guys are building it for something else. Atlanta's gonna see a lot of money in the future, and we're gonna see the money. All it takes is for us to ask. There are people in here talking about the equity and things like that. That's something that we have to learn for ourselves and not putting up things that matter. We need to get our homes appraised, to get the most value that we could get. Because around the corner, homes are being sold for $500,000, and it looks just like yours right now. Not only that, it's so much that we can just ask for it, and all we need to do is ask and get the resources that we need. We can be our community ourselves. That's something that we have to do. Our community looks like this because we don't look after it. We don't touch up on it. We support businesses here. We don't do a lot. So I'm not mad at Marta. I'm thankful that you guys are taking the time out to even listen, and I'm sorry that we're not on the same page. We're not all understanding. So to speak for my generation and everyone else here, and hopefully some other people, that we do need light rail for the future, for the next 15 and 25 years. When Atlanta's at the peak of LA and New York, we need the light rail. The bus is being used already. We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, dear.
Hi, my name is Rita Burke. My husband's in the back. We were born here in Southwest Atlanta from Darrell High School, married right here in your church in 1992, and we're not going anywhere. So I just want to say that you all mentioned about infrastructure. You mentioned the green space, the sidewalks. It's unfortunate that the city government officials are not here because it's their responsibility to take care of our sidewalks, our infrastructure, our roads. So it shouldn't be like this right now anyway, but it's unfortunate that they're not here today. I also noticed that you all had had a percentage where you did a vote. I want to know how many people were involved in this room, in that vote, because unfortunately we missed it. The percentage is disproportionate. You have 48% or 45%, which is BRT, and then you have 43%, which is LRT. That's 88%. It has to be a 51% majority. 12% of that vote is just in swearing case unless I missed it. So I do appreciate you. It would be better if you had both. And I know you said you and the mayor both spoke, but I mean, you were aware that there was a decision made to either BRT or LRT. It would have been great to have both of the presentations here, like they said on the side. And I appreciate the young woman from LA that can shed some light on it. But it would be great if we can do this again and have both, not only just Marta here, but the government officials spoke to us so well about the system that nobody's here to support us tonight.
All right, this section now. We didn't vote. We did not take a vote tonight. From what I've gathered from city officials and the mayor, and even previous mayor, it's bottom that the light rail is what the people voted for when they paid the taxes. They paid the taxes for the light rail. Keisha Bottom sent that message to me, and the mayor said, this word is, I'm going to make sure all of the money that Martha has goes for the light rail. Now, whatever has occurred since then, I have not spoken with the mayor. He did tell me he was in a previous engagement before we called this tonight. And Miss Overstreet, a council lady, said she could not be here, say they're all for the light rail. So the sentiment is, from what I gathered from the officials who were here, that did meet with me, give the people what they paid taxes for. They voted, they paid taxes for light rail. He's making a presentation to you to show you the difference. So in making that decision, know what you're getting. I can't speak for or against as a pastor. My thing is to bring you together so you'll hear from Martha. The issue has been, where is Martha? Martha probably would have been here that night, but they were not contacted by the right people. If it had been me, I would have made sure Martha was here the first night. But Martha is here tonight, not official now. So it's, again, back to you. What do you want? If that's what you voted for and you paid your taxes for, if we're gonna get that stuff going somewhere, that's the decision you make, or stick with what the young man say. He met, and they already, city council already made up their mind that you said you voted, or you wouldn't have paid the taxes. So whatever the consequences of your decision for light rail, Marta's making sure you know the difference. Okay? All right.
Just one thing, Mindy, you want to speak to the funding and the idea that, you know, that MARTA 2040, the vote for MARTA 2040 and where the taxes were going is a bigger picture than Campbellton Road specifically.
That's right. So the tax, the happening sales tax for more MARTA, which was approved in late 2016 and began collection in early 2017, was for a system, for a program of projects for the entire city. It is not sequestered in any one particular geographic location. The tax is collected citywide to be spent on a system and a program of projects.
Oh, really?
Correct.
So you're saying the taxes that was taken up was not for Campbellton Road light rail?
The taxes that are collected for are to be spent on that whole program of projects. So the program, it has estimates, forecasts for what projects might cost in particular locations, but that doesn't commit the tax revenue from those projects because that program gets allocated periodically. And that depends on how revenues are being collected from the sales tax, how they're being leveraged for federal dollars, and the projected cost for projects. And the cost of the projects, like everything else, are considerably higher than what was originally estimated. And so even the rail is up to upwards $430 million to $450 million now for Campbellton. It's a lot higher. But the tax, and so if you think about it, the tax was sequestered by location in the city based on where it was generated and to be spent. Well, that would just exacerbate equities that exist in Atlanta historically and would continue forward. If Buckhead, if the sales tax generated in Buckhead stayed in Buckhead, those projects in Buckhead versus here in Southwest Atlanta, that would perpetuate inequities. So it's really about projects that can move people to facilitate economic development and then creating a system where they connect and bring people to opportunities throughout the whole city.
Good evening, Pastor. I'm Dr. J. Lawrence Miller, and I came in to say something else because I was a little angry earlier, but because of this building and work tight for many years at the National Council of Women. And I was a little angry because in the Transportation Committee meeting yesterday, when the assist at the level of what I perceive as disrespect toward the councilman, Councilman Michelle Melo, response to them, short, curt, is just seemed to me as a constituent that it was typical MARTA. And that's a shame because I know you're trying to change the culture within MARTA, but that was the perception I got. I actually had two pieces that I wonder about and hope we get an answer for. The first is when we talk about inequity in the city of Atlanta, you have to break. There's just no way of getting around it. And the challenge along the Campbellton corridor is that it's been, I don't say ignored, but let's say overlooked by the city for 25, 30 years or more. MARTA has been a part of that by not investing to this point more buses or some other way of move people and helping with development. So as you move forward with whatever decisions come out of this discussions, how is the lens of equity going to be applied to ensure that Campbellton, which may be here now, Buckhead here, and the rest of the city there, that Campbellton doesn't stay down. Campbellton actually comes up here so that in 5 years, the city is here while Buckhead stays here. How will MARTA ensure that the Group Transportation Alliance are part of this conversation, make sure equity is absolutely a part of the decision-making process? And the other is, I wonder how committed is MARTA to actually building any rail? It's been 20 years since any rail has been done. I know you said that there's no promise of light rail along Campbellton Road. I will tell you that I'm a poor man, and I agreed to increase my taxes because I saw a promise. It may not have been a promise, but it was presented as a promise to have light rail. I looked at the documents that were submitted to the ARC, that's the Regional Commission, that specifically says light rail along Campbellton Road, that was submitted to the FTA that said light rail along Campbellton Road. So it may not have been a promise in the eyes of MARTA, but it certainly was part on from our perspective. So I wonder what that means. If the change for rail won't happen along the Emory corridor for whatever reason, it's that because MARTA no longer has a commitment to do anything with rail. What then happens to the Atlanta Bell Line, which was designed as a rail project? If it's not going to happen along North Avenue, if it's not going to happen in the city, and you are responsible, according to the IGA, with all rail in the city, if the streetcar, which was not built by MARTA, but built by the city, what MARTA is now responsible for is not getting fixed. If the issue that along the streetcar continue for year after year after MARTA is in charge, why should we trust you?
All right, thank you. Again, I'm going to try to remember the 3 issues. I will speak to, I'm going to try to summarize the questions, right? So one is rail being built, being considered anywhere? 2 is the equity and you know, other neighborhoods that we feel may or may not be getting rail. And then thirdly, you know, the care and control of the current streetcar system, and why should we trust you? So I'll take the care and control of the current streetcar system. I'll ask Unji and Tim to field the other 2 questions. So firstly, in terms of the streetcar system, so yes, MARTA adopted a streetcar. So the city built it, MARTA's now responsible for it. So we do not and will not point fingers to any point to our taking over the streetcar. It's ours and we're responsible for it. We're aware of commitments that need to be made intergovernmentally and through MARTA and through the city, and we're having those conversations about making sure that rain or shine, the streetcar runs. We're talking about investing in more vehicles, and we've even gone to the extent of doing a rules compliance program to make sure that we're operating it in accordance to the highest standards of road. And so we're responsible for that. We're going to continue improving the reliability of this streetcar system. I think it's 1.7 miles of track, so it's not a very big effort, but certainly it's an effort that if there's a big parade or a big game, we stop service. And you know, since I got here in 2019, we've been moving away from that kind of an approach. That system must continue. People have to learn to stay out of the way of the streetcar, and we have to plan our events and that kind of thing around it. So that's a streetcar issue. So Manjeet, you want to speak to the first question? The mix of rail.
Commitment?
Or commitment to rail.
What would you say?
Yeah. It's been 20 years. Right.
Okay. So the More MARTA program, again, the voucher in late 2016. So it's a young program. And as Mr. Green was talking about in the opening presentation, as well as my colleagues here, there's a process that we go through of doing technical work and public engagement. And that's a process of discovery. It's iterative. And as we go through that process, we learn information that we didn't have up front with doing the ballot measure, because if that's a work to do up front. So the first question is, does the city want additional transit? And there was a whole list of potential projects that were part of that ballot measure, but there was no way possible for all of those projects to be delivered. And that was clear. It was a list that needs to be narrowed down. And that list was narrowed down through a process that led to that sequencing plan, which saw the bar charts, and it was next to the map. And it does say LRD for a couple of the projects there, meaning rail. But there's this process of discovery, again, the technical work and the public engagement that helps to determine the policy choice that is ultimately made by the MARTA board of directors, which they have not made. What you see tonight is a staff recommendation. And Campbellton is the first one in the city of Atlanta to reach this milestone where we are nearing the time to make a decision. There are other projects like the Beltline, like Clifton Corridor, where similar decisions will need to be made, and the same type of process, excuse me, a process that we'll need to go through, a process of discovery. The work of staff and consultants is to do that best technical work, the best possible process to enable the decision makers to have all the information that they can to make a judgment about what a policy choice. There's not a formula that we can plug into here to come up with the right answer. It's a policy choice. So rail is certainly still on the table until the MARTA board of directors decides whether they want to do rail whether they want to do DRT, or they want to send us back to the drawing board and come up with something different. And that's how the process works for deciding these projects. And I hope that answers your questions. I know it's fairly esoteric about how we go about doing this. And your earlier question, your earlier comment about distrust and equity, you recognize that we're in times where there's a lot of distrust of government, sometimes fair, sometimes not. And it has to do with decisions that were made in the past or decisions that weren't made in the past. Our effort with the Campbellton Community Investment Corridor, a Main Street for Southwest Atlanta, is to put equity up front, is to do a broad, comprehensive package of investments to help people improve their lives, gain access to opportunity, and to realize whatever dreams they may have. And staff has, in working with our consultant team, found that we can move the same amount of people as efficiently as rail, and more so because there are more dedicated lanes for this project than with rail, and have a lot more money left over to do a lot more things to help improve the community here, which I agree has not had a fair share of investment and growth for a long time. And so this part of this process where we're engaging and we're listening is important. And I hear there's a lot of anger and distrust. And at some point, we will have to have confidence in the work that we're doing, that we can make that decision and move forward. Because if we're not going to move forward, that delays that opportunity to improve this community.
And can you speak really quickly to your experience in California in terms of the capacity or the demand for service and what the threshold is for BRT versus LRT?
Sure. So the orange line in Los Angeles that used to be at LA Metro, it moved a lot of people. It moves over 20,000 people per day. It actually, in that community in the San Fernando Valley, there was a prohibition put on rail by the California legislatures, the governors many decades ago. Because of concern about what rail would mean for the San Fernando Valley. The orange line, that's rapid transit, was built instead in a fixed guideway all by itself. And it moves over 20,000 people per day, and it's extremely successful.
And how many people are we talking about moving per day currently in our Campbellton corridor?
9,000.
9,000. And so BRT has a capacity to take us from 9,000 to 12,000 people per day.
And easily more in other places like Latin America, where they run a lot of BRT. The BRT system in Mexico City, just the BRT, moves more people than the entire Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority's transit system.
So the capacity is there to grow with the population, be it now or 20 years from now.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
You all be the last two behind her. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, send what, dear?
Oh.
Good line. All right, well, you all will be the last.
Good evening,
And
everyone.
you next.
You're looking at someone who grew up in this community, not this community, but I grew up on near Campbellton Road on the other side of the county line. So I'm very familiar with this wonderful area where we had car dealerships, we had restaurants, and we were thriving, and we are still economically potentially able to do that. But my concern is that recently we had cleanup costs. We had fraud in the southwest side on the Campbellton ride. We cleaned up our community. But some of the areas that I wanted to address with MARTA is probably doable and something that we can do today. And that is, can we keep our MARTA stations, the bus stops and the
Marta parking lot on Barge Road, can we commit to keeping that clean? And I guess my concern is that we can't keep that clean now and maintain the trash and the overflow and just the area being clean. If we can't keep that clean, can we assure that you're gonna be able to keep whatever new projects you have uprising, keep those clean as well? Because see, we're trying to be economically thriving and we really need that to stay clean, because even though we do a cleanup, it would just be that much more helpful. And we did speak about crime. And one thing we know that crime festers with, you familiar with the broken window theory. If we keep our community clean, then we can go, we can thrive for real, for real. So I just want you to please let me know if you can commit to going presently today, like as soon as tomorrow, possibly, go in and clean up those areas over all throughout Campbellton Road, County Line Road, all the way down, and keep those marker stations, transit areas, all of that clean for us.
So without having a pen, I'm going to ask my staff to document those locations that you just spoke of. So can you repeat those?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We can
So let her get with him.
I can get with it.
Okay, and let me just
Who are them?
raise your hand, staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's someone in the rear that she can talk to, please. One of you, gentlemen back there, see you standing?
Yes.
Go speak with him.
Thank you very much.
All right, this person, sir, you.
Hi, thank you, Pastor, and the Martyr team for tonight. I can't wait for the next set of engagement meetings. Well, my situation is I'm an Atlanta native, and I stay in Capitol View, where Beltline and Campbellton Road corridor neighborhood. And tonight, I'm not feeling the enthusiasm out of this. I'm really not. And so my questions lead into is that in the equity piece as to move forward in this project, any other projects, is we explore options and look at all of the opportunities in regards to funding and the advantages, the disadvantages, the modes. And even we asked them questions a few weeks ago, the answers were nonchalant. The responses are, you're talking to the community like we're inferior, and the community don't know what we're talking about. So moving forward, and with any project, can you commit and request that the community has to be involved, even when we pick the train to go on here? Because that's how we can ensure accountability. That's how we can ensure that it's being equitable. So that's the first question. Then number two, about equity, since we're talking about equity, applying for funding should just not be exclusive to the BRT. I called around myself in that research, and we can go not too far from here, Charlotte, as to where they've done a wireless light rail system that has come under $100 million. So obviously there's a disconnect in the more modern program and premise of this program to begin with, because you see it core now. Your local alternatives is disappointing the community. It's heartbreaking the community. So how can we ensure moving forward with all these corridors that the community is kept in mind and that we actually deliver? Thank you.
Thank you. Your response.
Sure, and MARTA team is more than welcome to petition. I will say that community engagement is a central part of all of our corridor planning initiatives. If the question is, does the community get to decide? Well, I don't get to decide, so I could never give you that latitude, but I will give you my word that you will get to participate. And the summation of that participation is what drives the decisions. I don't remember what the other question was.
All right. All right. Are you referring, let me help out here a moment. Yeah. Let me ask one question to we don't want to lose you, and there are people watching us all over the nation tonight on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. And they're watching and they're watching the community. What else do we need to do from here? Because we are divided. Marley is not connected with some of the community, and the community is not connected with Marley. I always say it has to take the mayor, who's the boss, to step in, and he's listening tonight, and city is listening too. We are not in a position to ask certain questions that the city can ask. And I think what you brought up tonight will perhaps make the city council, our council lady, our mayor, and its representatives supposed to be in here tonight, see exactly what's happening, and people can see and judge for themselves. We're hoping we can come back, but I'm losing some of the people. I see how some of you are walking out. You're walking out frustrated, and some are just leaving. So I hope, where do we go from here? And that's before we leave, these two persons, where do we go from here? All of us can't be in the meeting. It has to be a select group of people from the community. That's why I was trying to get with NBU and people in heads, the leadership of the community, to sit down with you or with a couple of city officials. You don't ever get anything done with a majority talking. There has to be a committee representing the majority to sit at the table and then come back. If we can get some of you all committed and say you would like to meet with Mark behind closed doors and get some elected official, and where do we go from here? We don't need to come back again talking about the same thing. I just want to clear up that the congregation tonight, they're opposing one thing to you over against what you say you want. Right or wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. Well, we are proposing BRT. There seems to be some people that want BRT and some people that want LRT.
Right. Now you got it. They are proposing. It's not saying that's not what they will do. Am I right?
That's correct.
Got it? They didn't say they would give you light rail. They were making a proposal. From here on, I think the mayor and city officials need to get involved as to where we go from here as far as giving you what you asked for. He did make a statement about things have changed in this last few years. The cost of everything and material has gone up. And it is going up. And I'll need you to think about that. I'm just here to make you think. Go ahead, Darla.
I have a question for the immediate future and the long-term future, because I think it was skipped when one of our seniors had said, we know that Campbellton Road is really narrow, and it doesn't matter if there's LRT, BRT, it's just too narrow for anything. And they know they have to give up some of the land. And she was asking about how it's going to be priced if Mara has to buy land from residential or commercial people. I suggest that you really get to the nitty gritty on that, because you have to buy, purchase something from the church to make the buy it. I think you have to.
As long as you give me a new one.
So I think it's important that you address that. I also think it's important because what I'm hearing.
So just to interrupt, Tim and Jake, I'll call on you when the ladies finish to speak to that issue. Go ahead.
Good. I don't know if the lady is still here who asked that, but that's an important question. I think, again, as the other, I'm here right now, we have a communication issue. I was at both meetings here at the church, city meeting, packed, one meeting. So I don't know what is going on that the city can get all these people here and have their officials here. Okay, and then that sets you up really in a bad light, because they backed you and been here to support, because they want the
the questions are holistic. It's like they get the piece of the mall, they get the piece of the city, and they're not seeing how the whole thing fits in. So also, one more thing, I want to know about the future. I read an article about a system that started BRT, and I think it was in Iowa. And then they went from BRT to LRT. So my question is, and you don't have to answer it today, but to be addressed in terms of as the city grows, because basically, what I'm understanding, multi-use properties where they're like stores at the bottom and they go up for residential. So this is more than here. So at that point, we get the capacity that we need to do something else so that we understand where the future is going instead of waiting. And also, I think the people here also are concerned about the upkeep. There has been no talk about the upkeep, whether you do LRT or BRT, because what's somebody has to call in. There's something in the road. There's something, and then they have to wait. Then we get no money. So you have to kind of plan to make people see that this is sustainable and that you're going to keep everything above board. You know, the concrete, you know, sell concrete for the BRT. And if you do the LRT, time you get like mice and things like that, what are you going to do to give everybody a holistic plan about the upkeep, the money for the upkeep, the plan that we go up? Is it going to be single deck buses? Do we eventually going to go to double deck buses? What is the plan for the future?
I think one of the things to help out that they're is explaining to us, if I'm correct, all the money will go for the light rail. Nothing else. Is that right? All the money will go for that light rail. You never get all that other stuff. Because, well, just say, you all let them know, if you go on for the light rail, all money will go strictly for that light rail, nothing else.
No,
Yeah,
I
that's what she's
understand. I understand.
Okay,
No matter what we build, a certain amount goes to the capital development, and a certain amount will be ongoing maintenance costs, operating costs to maintain the system.
So it would go for other things other than light rail.
Just maintain the light rail system.
Just light rail.
Whatever we build, we have to maintain this. Yeah.
But no development.
No, that's not development. That's just keeping the lights on and go ahead and do.
So our capital program needs to be at the right size to ensure that as Mr. Greenwood said, what we build, we can operate, maintain.
Right.
And so that's what the budgets have to fit in our long-term financial planning. If we spend all of our money up front to build things that we can't operate, maintain, then that's a problem. You've seen that with transit agencies in the United States, where they spend too much money on the expansion and not enough on operating and maintaining it.
Powerful word there. Powerful word. I hope you all listen. And for how long? That's so much to think about. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My question was.
Oh, they went here to you? Oh, well, you be the last one. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to know if the same energy presentation is being presented to these other corridors outside of Southwest Atlanta. Are the proposals for BLT versus LRT and these other corridors, or are we just selling this to Southwest Atlanta? Because here's the thing, I thought I heard where it was stated that it's still being discussed, and it seems like the discussion is being held first with this particular community. And so what we don't want is for this community to choose something that is underneath what another community or another corridor is getting. So we want to make sure that we're getting the same, if not equal, and not lesser.
Perfect. Let me address that. The other communities that we're talking about, top end 400, the folks up at Emory, maybe not Emory. I think Emory's a point of conversation, but the other locations are aware that it's BRT. Those have already committed to or spoken of BRT, and they're welcoming it. They're waiting for, they're planning for development around BRT. So, we said earlier that this is a conversation that started out here in Campbellton Road years ago. And we're still speaking. We're happy to continue the conversation. To answer your question, there are other communities in our service area and beyond are aware that BRT is coming and are taking it on.
Okay, I think we have Senator Falk coming in, who is a neighbor here, so we'll probably have him as the last person. So
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Listen, come on, darling.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Come right on. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Scott. I am the CEO of Georgia Stand Up. And I've been at every one of the meetings. I was here at the last one. I was here at the tour on Saturday. I have been here for community engagement for the last 18 years regarding these issues of MARTA. I still have some concerns, even when we have shared, but you could do better. We're still at this place. We had meetings that we asked MARTA and your consultants to come to. Even online, we're asking for the same information. So I understand that you're here and we appreciate you spent your time today and you brought all your board and your consultants that definitely board here. That's added plus. However, we're still at the same place because you only brought half the information once again. And we asked you to bring it all. Did not. We asked you to bring it all. Your staff knows exactly.
Someone attest to that.
Someone attested.
I'm
Can you
aware.
attest to that, Marcus? Don't let me have to call people out because I'm here. I'm actually to give you a suggestion.
Yeah, I just want to address that because
Down to the handout you should have here. I asked you to bring the handout to show it all. I asked you to bring the overlay to show it all, to show how many properties you have to take on both options. I asked to show you to show what stops are. You brought less information here than you even did on Saturday.
You ask.
Okay. That person that was on the consultant that was on the tour on Saturday, can you please stand?
I think a lot.
Okay. Did I ask for these things? Okay. Would you say yes, ma'am? Okay. So Georgia stands with the community. We understand your difficulty, and we gave you the roadmap. And once again, we failed. So what I would suggest is once again, you come back with a real presentation that shows both sides. Now you may say, I listened, I sat here all night, right? Respectfully. And I really have some constructive suggestions for you. But if we play the game that if we just tell these folks this, then they'll go that way. If you don't tell them the whole story and it keeps appearing that if you're hiding something, they're going to keep digging. And they're not going to trust you. And you're new at this. You're the interim director. Congratulations. And we're glad you have the job temporarily. But these communities and we will be here before, during, and after. And we want you to get it right. So the last time I was here, I said, yes, LRT, like rail. Because that's what the community said they wanted, and we stand with the community. But I looked at the presentations, and we're actually looking at how many homes and businesses will be displaced if you go LRT. So then we're saying, okay, where is the money going to be spent? How is the economic investment going to be here in this corridor? And we know MARTA cannot pay for all the things that these communities want because they have been disinvested for the last 50 years. So to come here with one agency, without all the other agencies, a comprehensive plan to say we're going to make these communities right because we've been disinvested, is disingenuous. Because I saw your presentation Tuesday at the city hall, right? And so what you didn't give today is what date are they voting on this? What date is the board voting on this? What date?
We're not bringing it to the board until we're satisfied.
Sherry, what's the date that this goes to the board? You said in your presentation it's going to the board in May. I believe it's May 21st.
I don't believe that.
It was supposed to be April 14th and then got pushed back to May.
Let me say this, and I'll reiterate, similar to my conversation at City Hall, is that and we said at the board meeting that we will not bring it to the board until we've had a broad consensus from the community. So,
but on the screen, you said summer. Tuesday, you said May, and I heard dates every time we've gone to a meeting, it's been a different date. But at no point did you say to the community, look, we're trying to do this in the next month. And so we're going to come back to you within next week and do a proper tour. And we're going to talk about the tour and the 13 people from the community that was on the tour and how many staff you had on the tour and the microphones weren't working and the road and the busted stuff. All that we want to talk about that today because that's a sub issue. I haven't heard when the tour is going to be scheduled or rescheduled. I haven't heard when the next community meeting is going to be. I haven't heard you share when a board meeting is where they can express this really to the board that's not here and how much money they're talking about and how, because this is so important, it's getting pushed up. If you saw fit to go to Washington, that you can't go to Invest Atlanta, the city council, the mayor's office and say, we need a comprehensive plan because we're all gonna fail if this doesn't go well. So the suggestion is, because there is a transit equity component to this, that you must meet with the federal agents. Is that correct? The reason why this project can be pushed up is because of the history of disinvestment for this area. Because you can push out and say, this is why it's needed. But you can't give them this great thing without looking at all the other conditions that have been created over the last 50 years from lack of investment. You can't do it in isolation. And what we're suggesting is that you really take the time and not just listen to the community in a format like this. Have a community committee that Reverend talked about with people who are really engaged, get educated, and roll out a comprehensive plan and tell the truth about both sides. That would help. If not, as I told you before, for you or against you, we're going to be right here the next time. So we hope that you get it right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One thing I don't want to do is get immersed in process and form over what? Substance. And that's what has happened in these past several weeks. Listening to both sides is fine. But the most important side is what? The right side. And you heard the right side about a month and a half ago. And this is a good enough crowd. But when you had, how many people, Pastor Fleming, you said it, the largest meeting of community folk in the history of Campbellton Road. In Atlanta. So this is fine. But you heard what the people said. The people said what? We want LRT. We want LRT. They stood up, they put their hands up, and that is right side. You can have all the manufactured meetings you want. You can have all the Zoom meetings, the Boom meetings, in between. But for me, 34 lives off of Campbellton Road, I want LRT. I wanted it then, I want it now, and I want it in the future. Look, hold on. I didn't interrupt you. I'm going to have my say. You've been here all night. You had a chance to say what you wanted to say, but I'm going to say what I want to say tonight on this iPhone. I know what's going on. You know, people who they want you to look at over here and it's over here. That's what's going on. They're giving you shiny objects. They're telling you, well, we want all the $300 million for Campbellton Road. Does that sound good? It sounds good, but you got to think. MARTA cannot spend, and if you can, I want you to tell me right now definitively, MARTA cannot spend their money on non-transportation projects. It has to be at a MARTA station, a TOP, transportation-oriented development. When they say we, and I know what's going on. They put an article in the newspaper. MARTA will get $100 million. They're seeding the bed. They're planting seeds in your mind, telling you to look here, not see what's really going on. The fire routine, $100 million, $200 million. Be truthful with the people. Tell them if you're going to do a BRT, tell them where $200 million coming from. Tell them where to go. Don't lie to people. Just don't lie to people. The reason people, black people in particular, don't believe in government, they don't believe in MARTA, is because they've been lied to. Black people have been discriminated in transportation in the city for 125 years. I told you about that at your board meeting. Back to the streetcar, then back to the bus, and now we put back on the bus again. I still want LRT. And you can hire as many lobbyists as you want. You can put all that money in their pockets as you want, but that's not going to change the fact that what you're trying to do is a sham. Now, they even planted an article saying that Emory's going to get BRT or considering BRT. Alex Wan, he opened BRT. Does he still work at Emory? I know why Emory jumped in line. Alex Wan works at Emory, or used to when it got done. I'm here when the Beltline get BRT. I almost said Beltline get BRT. I ain't heard a mumbling word about it. Just don't trick the people. Be honest with the people. Don't put pride and don't let them put process. Well, I don't care if they have 100 more community meetings. I used to be president of the Citywide Neighborhood Association, where we put forward to that people should have input with impact. So I know better than anybody in this room what input means by citizens. But don't you input as way trick folk. Tell me that's going to take too long. We've been waiting for 155 years. How long? Not long, Dr. King said. He's telling us I still haven't gotten the numbers or the figures or the presentation board, how many houses or how many structures BRT is going to take versus LRT. I've been asking for 3 years. We all had that, and Sherry Williams was there. And I see it. And some other folk were there. Bruce was there. He asked it back then when y'all had shiny presentation boards. I don't trust you, MARTA, Mr. Madam, Mr. General Man. We don't trust you. I know I don't. Because you've proven to be untrustworthy. You've proven to be untrustworthy. So we're going to fight. You may win, may lose, but you don't know one thing. You've been in a fight. You've been in a real fight.
Man. All right. All right, so we will have a conclusion and then we'll make a decision where we'll come back for another meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
You know, there are a number of times when I was inclined to respond to some of the things that we heard in the last two speakers. And both asked me not to interject so that they could continue speaking. And so I did that.
Yes,
memory being what it is, I cannot go back and pick apart everything they said, but let me just do this. There were a lot of incorrect statements being made there, and so let me just leave it there. I don't know how much time we have at the end of the night with some of those that will, quite frankly, dispel some of the statements that were made. But I do want to address the idea that we came with an incomplete presentation. I'm speaking for myself here. I won't speak for everyone else. I came here tonight because I felt that people didn't know what BRT was. I said at the beginning, I said that was my aha moment, is that we got to talk to Pastor. We want to make sure people know what bus rapid transit is. That was the reason I came here tonight. Had I known, and I'm not taking responsibility, but had I known that people wanted an LRT presentation or a complete city building presentation and infrastructure presentation and some of the other things that I just heard, well, it would have taken more time. It would have taken a longer agenda, but we would have endeavored to do that. I didn't insist on city council and city representatives being here because they were here, and that was said. They were here the last time, and what was missing was Marta's input, and specifically the defense of the LPA, which is BRT, and that's what I came here to do tonight. Listen, it was also said that we're going to be fighting with you. You are not going to be fighting me. You are not going to be fighting with Marta. Marta is here as a responsible fiduciary entity to explain to you why they made the recommendations we made. Whether you agree with us or disagree with us, I felt it was our responsibility to come here and tell you why. But there is no interest. I will never be fighting with you. So, take that for what it is. My job is to come here and put the information at your feet. And if there's more information required, we're happy to do that. And like I said, if there's a more fulsome conversation about light rail, bring it up, we'll be happy to do that too. At the end of the day, I want to summarize, and I really want to thank you, Pastor, for allowing us to come here. Thank you. I appreciate, at the end of a boxing match, both boxers come out and they respect each other, and I do that. I very much appreciate and respect the time that everyone's taken in here to come here. I appreciate the passion that you have displayed, and I apologize to the gentleman that felt that there wasn't enough passion in the room. Sometimes things are organic. It depends on how many people are in the room and what the topics are. And yeah, maybe I could have shouted more from the pulpit, but I didn't think that was appropriate. I just wanted to make sure that we place the facts in front of you. And so, if we failed to tell you what BRT is tonight, then I apologize, and we'll try again. But what I'm hearing is some folks don't want to hear any more about BRT. They just want to hear more about LRT. So, all right, we'll consider that. So thank you very much.
Yes, let me interrupt you a minute and say something here before we leave. I want to say to Marta, board, you couldn't have chosen a better person to represent you. I've been in church fights. I've been in all kinds of fights. This is my 6th church. My first church, I pastored when I was 19 years old. Way out in the country. They have a conference before we get there. They have a conference when we get there. They have a conference with me in the country. What I seen tonight from you to the Marta board is impressive because of this kind of heat. And maintain stamina and maintain respectability in my pulpit. And I want to say my purpose for bringing them to you tonight, I met with them, was to bring to you the difference. Now you heard it, the difference in life, whatever else. Now we have a chance to say tomorrow, we'll come back, they wish to come back and give you all of it on the table. You needed this tonight. And to you watching in Atlanta, all the citizens here, we should come back with city officials They should be here with you to protect you and what they propose and what the people want, and let Marta present it. Now, next time, I would trust that you will come back and make a presentation about your life. What else can we want? All right, that's fair. So I'm gonna, yes, dear. I would love to hear that. I would like to hear that right now. Can you stand, please, and talk to that mic so they can all hear you? And this is a young entrepreneur in our community. We want more of that. Yes. There's a young black man that bought green on you.
I don't know that.
Oh, well, he said, that's good.
But we discussed how much the light rail would cost now. He said something about 400 and something. How much would the bus rail cost? And this project wouldn't start for another 6 years. So the cost of everything, economical changes and everything, the costs are going up. We get a projected cost of how much it would cost. That this budget would going to the community would go lower and lower to nothing. But like I said before, it's to give one cost so everybody can know how it is. Previously it was that, and then at this time it's going to be this amount, and this amount will be left.
Let me inject. Are you prepared for that now, or to wait for the next meeting?
It could be next meeting. Next meeting.
Let's hold that for the next meeting, put something on the plate so they can bring to us and show us the difference in the cost. And that's going to be another decision that we're going to have to make. Are we ready to pay more money? Because things are going up. Let's give everybody, God bless your hand. If you want to come, start it out and shoot in. All right, just have a microphone. All right. Thank you.
I am so excited that I've heard from so many of our passionate friends here today. My name, Rita Scott. Ms. Deborah Scott and I get used to being relatives so many times, and we've known each other for a long time. So excited to hear from Senator Ford and each and everyone in the building. And I suggested that we do the tour. I suggested that we have this meeting because we weren't able to be, and I'm not making excuses, I don't need that. The last meeting, because we found out during the meeting, and I personally would have been here, but I was already committed to speak at a meeting via Zoom that evening. And so I want to make sure that Mark had an opportunity to come out and also speak to the community, the same as your elected official. So I would love to see Pastor open up this at this facility to allow Marta, along with the elected officials and community leaders. If you have a community department in the church that can work for a committee of people from every aspect, that we can hear from those that are in favor of BRT, those that are in favor of LRT. First of all, second, let me apologize for what appears to have been specific not sharing information with you. I apologize for that because I can see your point, but that was not the intention. But I can see how you would feel that way. So we're going to correct that. We're going to correct that problem. We're going to make sure that you have all the information you need. One of the things that I asked for specifically from Marta was let's find out in the state exactly how much tax has been realized. We know what was projected. After the projection, we had a pandemic. And so we got to live in reality. And in reality, the question is, how much money have we received? How much money was projected and where the difference is? And the longer question, how much is it going to cost? We at MARTA, I can speak on behalf of the board, have not decided when to vote on this project. I chair the board. That has not been a decision. There will be a board meeting. The fact that this will be on the table has not been decided. I am so excited that my board members are here. They heard you one-on-one, and they can share with the rest of the board that wasn't here. But I commit to you that you will get everything that you're entitled to. Everything that your tax dollar has brought to you. I agree with Mr. Renew. You can't say that the dollar collected in Buckhead stays in Buckhead, and the dollars collected in the south side of Atlanta stays in the south side of Atlanta. But you can say that whatever revenue was rejected will go where it needs to be. And that is in the city of Atlanta, whether it's north or south, you will be treated fairly. Trust me, we got the same thing going on in South DeKalb. There has not been any growth for over 4 years. And so what we want to make sure is that MARTA is doing the right thing, the fair thing, and I commit to you, if you put that committee together to make sure that the elected officials are here, MARTA will be here, and we'll make sure to present to you the information that you made to make an informed and educated decision. Thank you, and thank you so much, Pastor, for opening up this facility for us to communicate. Because without a vision, a man perishes. So I thank you for your vision.
I ask one question. Do we need to meet collectively again here as a community, or do we meet as a group first and then come before? Because we don't have a lot of time to meet those. Yeah. What do you suggest? You all know how you
community. Tell us what you want to bring to the meeting. We won't make a mistake, and we will not omit whatever you want to hear or see. We will make sure that whatever you want, whatever you need to see, that we bring it to you. A committee.
And
yes.
Then come to the people.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, I'll get you all together that's been, especially ones that have been in heads and leaders in the community. I'd like to have a little meeting with you. My office is open anytime during the week. We're opening up Sunday for the first time that the church is reopening. Okay? That's what I would like to have, mainly you, young lady, and I want this guy over here. I want some young and okay, give me a combination, because the future and the season, all that's going to make it better as a committee. And then I'll talk to the mayor. And we'll get that suggestion who they were. Now this, we're not getting with fussing. We got to think. All right, let's not argue. We'll come with solid questions so that they can respect those questions. But arguing, fussing, that's not going to do. Modern, they're not here for that. They want to sit down. Let's sit down and reason and have an agenda. And I will call a meeting. Or some of you call my office and say, Pastor Fleming, I've been working in the neighborhood. I'd like to be a part of that committee. And then I will call another meeting and make sure the mayor and city officials come. How about that? Now, how long are we talking about for this? A month? What do you want? A month? Get past Easter? So we're getting past April and come back when, May? Depending on how many of you are going to be on the road. Would you like to come after the fourth Sunday in April, that Thursday? Or let's say that, what's the date on that, sir?
Pastor, is that for the community meeting or for the?
That would be for the community meeting. I will call you together in the next week. All right, let's have a community meeting. Then we can decide then when you want to come back with Martha. All right, give me 2 weeks later, Ms. Jackson, what's that date? Give me 2 weeks from, what? 2 weeks? Give me 2 weeks for a meeting. What day was that? 12th, what day is that? Huh? Yes. Of April. And what day is that? Perfect. I will meet with some of you that would like to volunteer. Now, in fact, I'd like for some of you all to come and see me when I dismiss and let me kind of get a little feel of who you are, because, okay, Marta's taking up half of this space. So we can find out who's left. And some of you all already know your face, and I don't know your face with a mask on, but I know you've been involved. Who is in to you? Well, who's president now? Definitely you. Okay, yes, ma'am. That's the same day. I think enough been said tonight. I think we should probably meet maybe that Tuesday then, if that's what you want to meet, before Marta meet or after Marta meet. Yes. May. No, you talking about coming back with Marta and everyone. We're talking about committee. All right, well, in 2 weeks, we'll pick that day and let's get a committee. And I'm gonna have to get some advice from Ms. Overstreet and making sure she is our city council person. She needs to be in that meeting. And then we'll have a little talk with the mayor and see what he suggests. I'll tell you what, let me speak with the mayor first and get his opinion, so I'll be guided, not a politician, and find out what he suggests. So this can get political, and that's not my area. All right, let's stand. Yes, right. No, staff meeting, a committee. I would select some people like if the volunteer, Ms. Gaston is walking around taking stands. Now, I would personally call you, say, I would like to be on that committee. I meet some guys within the president. I respect that chair because they represent the neighborhood. I don't know if some of you know, the church has moved forward and given a $5,000 down deposit on the attorney, and had asked several other churches. I think Hillside donated $1,000 and 2 other churches donated $1,000. Would you like to say something, Mr. That what they're doing about the filling station? Because we have put most of the an official attorney to try to fight and overturn this decision. So listen to this.
So just in a nutshell, right across the street, 2775 Campbellton Road is designated MARTA stop, transit stop. And developer bought the property and he is proposed to get to put a service station on that property. So we went before the board zoning adjustments and lost on the 3-2 decision to have the permit revoked because that service station is in violation of a city code in 2019 that says that service stations cannot be within 1,500 feet of each other. And a service station definition includes a gas station and a tire shop. So there's a tire shop right at Campbellton and Dawson, and that's well within 1,500 feet. And we've not been able to get the city previous mayor to weigh in on before the end of the year. So we had to take it to the BZA. And when the BZA voted against us 3-2 March 3rd, the community, the Hamilton Greenbrier Coalition neighbors got an attorney, and we're getting support from all over the city because no one wants another gas station because of the safety issues and crime issues that you mentioned earlier. So that was filed, a case was filed in the Superior Court. And so several churches and businesses, and also the 11 neighborhoods with the NBUR are committed to helping with the attorney's retainer.
Yeah, we adopted Thurl High School, and if some tragedy breaks out at Thurl High School, Mount Carmel is the church that will house the kids until whatever disaster is over, when the parents are looking for their kids. That's right up the street. We've been doing that for years with Thurl High School. They can come here with their children. And now to put a gas station there, but you already have 5 gas stations on Campbellton Road, as you know. Now you're talking about the one right next door to the church, selling beer, and wine and pornography, that kids got to pass the hospital again. And I cannot see for the name of sense why they could have put one down on the other corner, with old shack down on the corner, without going next door to church. So we have a 9 on Campbellton Road as it is. We already know gas stations attract a whole lot of different kinds of people. They don't even keep the ones clean over. There's 1 or 2 don't even have a name. You don't know what kind of gas station it is. And most of the people who own these businesses do not live nowhere near us, in other places. And we got to stand up. So asking all the churches to join in with me, because if they put one next to mine, they'll put one next to yours. Okay? So the church is taking the lead and to move forward with that. And I hope if we don't win, we're going to fight hard. We got to fight this together. Just letting you know, Martha, I do other things. Okay, thank you so much. Let us stand. All right, let's pray out. Father, we thank you for this night, and thank you that we're becoming more united and we're coming together so we can trust each other. So much rumors, so many things can confuse us. But like coming around the table, as you said, if we all just come together and reason together, we can accomplish much. So thank you for these experts taking the time to lead their families, working overtime to be here tonight. I'm sure they are exhausted. They stayed, they remained here with us. They heard our voices. They gave us the option to hear the whole truth about any other thing that they proposed. Now we will come back and talk about what we proposed. Guide us as we move forward. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching us through social media tonight. I'm Pastor Timothy Flynn, pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church. You can watch this all night long the rest of the week on YouTube and Facebook. Mount Carmel, mcbcatl.org, Mount Carmel Baptist Church.